This is a Niall Boylan at Night podcast from Classic Hits 4FM. See classichits.ie for more.
A leading terror figure has been killed. This is according to The Independent. An associate injured in a Gangland-style attack in North Dublin. The victim, by the way, named locally as Alan Ryan, has had several previous convictions and is known by detectives for his links with the real IRA. The 32-year-old was notorious for racketeering, extorting cash from drug dealers and businessmen across the city, and demanding protection money from firms. He was previously convicted of taking part in a real IRA weapons training camp in Meath in 2001 and served time for possession of firearms in a separate incident. A Garda source today said he was very dangerous and he won't be missed. He said anyone could have done this, even one of his own. Now, this also comes on the same day, of course, that Robert Sheen died in hospital this afternoon. Mr. Sheen, who was smoking a cigarette in the car park of the Bunratty Castle Hotel in Spa in County Clare over the weekend, and a car pulled up and two occupants wounded him in the head and body. Now, you might remember, of course, that Robert Sheen had previously served time for a firebomb attack that left two kids, you remember the two kids, Millie and Gavin, with horrific injuries. Many people say they won't be missed. So the question I want to ask you quite simply tonight, do you have any sympathy for the lowlifes that lose their lives? One person on Twitter earlier on said these men are somebody's sons and have friends and family, and they're no different to anybody else in that respect, and they deserve answers. And the Gardaí should put the same amount of effort into looking for the people responsible as they would for anybody else, whereas some people believe the Gardaí shouldn't bother because they've little or no sympathy for them. I want to ask you tonight, do you have any sympathy for gangland killings or for people who are killed by the sword if they live by the sword? All right, but first of all, I want to go get a little bit more information on this. We're going to go to Ken Foy, who's the crime correspondent with the Evening Herald. Good evening to you, Ken.
Good evening, Niall.
It's been a very interesting day. Of course, we've had two men who, I suppose Gardaí will claim won't be missed, have lost their lives. Give us a bit of background information first on Alan Ryan.
Well, the murder today of Alan Ryan would be considered probably the most significant gangland murder in Dublin for many, many years. Mm-hmm. Alan Ryan was, I suppose, the de facto leader of the real IRA in Dublin. He would have controlled an organisation of at least 40 or 50 individuals who would be considered one of the biggest risks against the security of the state, who seemed to be growing in power as the months indeed went by this year. And when he was shot dead today, it's certainly one of the most significant events that has happened in serious crime in Ireland for quite a very long time.
Okay, what was it? Well, in relation to what he was linked to, I know he was lifted in 2010 in connection with the brutal murder of Sean Winters outside the Portmarnock Dart Station. He's also been connected to other killings as well. I mean, what sort of evidence do they have against him?
That's correct. Well, after the Sean Winters murder in Portmarnock, Ryan and many senior members of his gang were arrested by Gardaí within literally hours of that. Mm-hmm. Properties connected to him were searched. Something like 8 or 9 of Ryan's gang were lifted, including a number of females. Ultimately, there was no evidence ever to charge Ryan or his associates with that murder, but Gardaí are satisfied that that murder was carried out by Alan Ryan's gang. Mm-hmm. The ironic thing about it is it's believed that Ryan was paid a considerable sum of money by another drug dealer, Michael Micah Kelly, nicknamed the Panda, I suppose, in the media, to have Winters, who had been, I suppose, a rival of Kelly, wiped out. But just simply over a year after Winters was murdered, Alan Ryan was the chief suspect in organising the murder of Mr. Kelly, mm-hmm. who apparently hadn't coughed up the money that he'd promised to a year earlier for the execution of Sean Winters. Apart from these murders, Alan Ryan and his gang have been involved in a long-running campaign of extortion against drug dealers and in some cases legitimate business people as well. In fact, Alan Ryan was before the courts in relation to one particular incident involving publican. He was charged in May 2011 I suppose we can't go into too much detail in relation to that because there is other people before the courts.
Yeah.
But ultimately it was the extortion, and when I say extortion, we're talking here about massive sums of money that in many cases drug dealers, drug organisations were terrified of the Ryan brothers and of Alan Ryan, and were happy to pay up.
Yeah, because the brothers worked hand in hand, of course, because they were both arrested when the Garda swooped on the real RA training camp in Meath 11 years ago, and the two of them did time for it, 3 years each after that particular raid, so they were both involved in it.
They were indeed, yeah. Alan's older brother is Anthony. He's not before the courts now. Both brothers received those jail sentences in March 2001. They would have went down to Portlaoise prison, and while in there, they would have built up big contacts within the dissident Republican organisation, in contacts with Northern Ireland. And what's, I suppose, very significant about Alan Ryan is his activities over the last few months and number of years. He simply provided huge amounts of cash for his bosses, the leaders of the real IRA, if you like, in the north. He would have been a major cash cow for them.
Well, it was reported at one stage they extorted $425,000 from criminals in 1 year.
Yes, and that's the kind of figures you're talking about.
Yeah,
but these were a very highly organised gang. In the Evening Herald a number of months ago, we ran a story. It was a matter actually that wasn't reported to Gardaí, but we got confirmation that it happened. They carried out major surveillance operations, like something off The Sopranos, on a North Dublin gang, where they were able to intercept a truck going over to Spain, where a truck driver, not really involved, I suppose just a driver, but he was carrying a six-figure sum of cash over to a number of the drug lords that Alan Ryan was feuding with over to Spain. They intercepted this truck, and they went and they made off with the cash.
Unbelievable. The Garda Síochána said today that, as they said themselves, he won't be missed because he was a very dangerous individual. Do you believe, Ken, the Garda put the same resources into looking for well, I'm pretty sure the Guards probably have a fair idea who did this, but do you believe they put the same amount of resources into looking for the individuals involved, or do they really care as long as they're killing each other?
The Guards will, a murder investigation is a murder investigation, and the Guards will be pulling out all the stops in relation to trying to solve this crime. In fact, unlike, I suppose, 5 years ago, the success level in solving these kind of gangland
crimes... It was disastrous at one stage, wasn't it?
It was a disaster, but...
well, I think they were solving them, but nobody was actually being prosecuted because we had a situation where witnesses were afraid to come forward.
That has changed, though, in the last couple of years. And there's been at least a dozen very significant prosecutions in relation to gangland murders.
So his reign of terror is finished, but I'm pretty sure there's somebody waiting to take over from him, and the gang will continue to go on. I mean, what is the solution to all this problem? Do they need to change more legislation so the Garda Síochána can deal with individuals who they know and are well aware are involved in crime, but just can't seem to nail them down on anything?
Ireland would have one of the, I suppose, toughest set of laws in relation to gangland crime. There's a host of problems linked to this issue. Of course, the very nature of these kind of crimes, witness intimidation, the actual power that these gangs wield in their own community. It's very, very difficult to see what the solution is. How something like this could be stopped. In Alan Ryan's case, at this early stage, it looks like a number of different gangs in the Coolock area have clubbed together to organise his murder. He ended up feuding, I suppose, with the one faction too many. And people that normally wouldn't be associated or particularly friendly with each other seem to have decided enough was enough, particularly after an assault in Coolock a couple of weeks ago in which a man was almost beaten to an inch of his life. Seems to have been the final straw.
Also, I suppose the other big story is that Robert Sheen as well died as well. And of course, people who might remember Robert Sheen was jailed in 2007 for the petrol bomb attack that changed the lives of Millie and Gavin Murphy, the two young kids who were almost burned to death at that time. I mean, that's another person I'm pretty sure the Guards won't be missing either.
That's correct. there's no doubt, if you look at his short life, it was fairly brutish. He had 50 previous convictions. Ironically enough, he was almost the good guy, if you could say that, in relation to what happened to those poor children, in terms of if it wasn't for his actions in that particular incident, the children may well have died. He did.
He was the lookout, wasn't he, at the time?
He was indeed. He was.
Yeah.
But in relation to that murder, Gardaí are absolutely certain, and the two suspects in custody, I suppose, will back it up. That issue is completely related to a stabbing incident which happened in the Moy Ross estate in Limerick last month. And what you're talking about there is a group of people that, criminals, from petty criminals to serious criminals, who were once very, very friendly with each other. A row developed over a girl. Two guys were stabbed. They waited for their opportunity, which sadly for the Sheen family came at the wedding of Robert's older stepbrother. He was lured out of the hotel.
It's the Bunratty Castle Hotel, yeah.
Yeah, it's understood he received a text message from a female, and he was shot 5 times in the head, and Gardaí and everyone, I suppose, knew that the injuries he suffered, he was never going to survive. In fact, it's a miracle, really. He lasted till 4 or 5 o'clock today when he was actually pronounced dead.
All right, well, listen, I'm sure we'll watch with bated breath the Evening Herald tomorrow, and I'm sure you'll have a good update on the story, and I really appreciate you coming on, Ken, to talk to us tonight about it.
Thanks very much, Niall.
There you go, Ken Foy from the Evening Herald, and I'm sure if you grab the Herald tomorrow, you'll get a full update on the story, and that's we were talking about the story, of course, of Alan Ryan from Coolock, who was shot today, notorious gang boss and gang member, and the question we're simply asking you tonight is, do you have any sympathy? See, there was somebody text or tweeted us today and say, well, you know, this is somebody's son, this is somebody's friend, this is somebody's brother, this is somebody's sister possibly, or whoever's killed. I'm talking about generally gangland members. And I'm asking you, do you have any sympathy? It almost kind of reminds you of the death sentence, because that's what it is. When you get involved in crime like that, when you're a lowlife and you get involved in extortion, and he's a member of the real IRA and they were suspected of being involved in murders, when you get involved in that and you die, why should anybody have a level of sympathy whatsoever for you? You live by the sword, you die by the sword. It's almost like the death penalty, isn't it? I'm asking you, do you have any sympathy? And I want you to text, because interestingly enough, one or two people today on Facebook and Twitter said they did have some level of sympathy, even though there's no doubt about it, he's a lowlife. But I'm asking you, do you have any sympathy? Text yes or no to 53544 for 20 cents. Just yes or no. Do you have any sympathy for these guys? Or you can call us on 1850 410 494. Are you happy enough? Maybe you just agree they should all just go around killing each other. Once they kill each other, who cares? We're going to go to James. James, you're live in Classic Hits 4FM. Good evening to you. You're in Dublin.
Good evening, Niall. How are you?
How are you doing, James?
Well, two things. I've no sympathy for the guy in Limerick, right? Mm-hmm. I've sympathy for his family. Now, I just found out about 15 minutes ago that the guy in Coolock is possibly a relation.
Well, I don't know whether they're related or not, so...
To me.
Mm-hmm. Oh, to you?
Now, I just got a quick phone call.
Okay.
Now, I know his father and his mother, if it is the right connection, and they're the straightest, nicest, hard-working people on the planet. Mm-hmm. So, unfortunately, you know, we all rear our children to the best of our abilities, and they go wrong, they go wrong. It's not easy. Now, me man in Limerick seems to have a list of forms that, like, you know, for his age,
yes,
he must have never stopped from the day he could walk.
Yeah, well, he was only 21.
That's what I'm saying, like,
yeah.
there's a list. Now, he was the lookout for those two little kids.
Yeah.
Now, I don't care what it says. To be a lookout for such a horrendous crime, all right, he might have been a star witness in it, but he was there for it. You know, little children.
I mean, everybody says that, yeah, he came good in the end, but at the end of the day, he was involved in the crime.
Of course.
And a crime where two children nearly lost their lives. Well, look at those children. They're emotionally and physically scarred for the rest of their lives.
They'll never get over that.
Yep.
Now, as I say, I just found out about 20 minutes ago that I'm possibly related to that.
To Alan Ryan.
Now, I would know his mother and father. If a friend of mine rang me and said, that's so-and-so, so I'm not going to say the names, obviously, wouldn't be fair. I said, I find it hard to believe. Right, now I just found out...
But nobody's doubting that the mother and father are wonderful people. But hold on for a second, James. If this was your kid, realistically, would you disown them?
Oh, absolutely.
Mm-hmm. So how? But even then, if you found out, 20 years down the road after you disowned your son, or 10 or 15 years after down the road, that they'd been shot or murdered in one of these gangland style killings, could you honestly sit there and go, I feel sorry for them?
No, I wouldn't. I'd say put your hand in the fire, you got burnt.
Yeah.
That's it. I would have no sympathy for the person, but the family, yes. I mean, they didn't. I don't think any mother or any father sets out to rear their children to be any form of criminal, no matter what it is. Mm-hmm. And it's dreadful to see it. I mean, it's every day in the week you hear, oh, this guy's dead, that guy's dead, oh, he had a good home. It doesn't matter. If he decides to go down that road, then he's going to put his hand in the fire, he's going to get burnt. And the sad part is, if and when these people are brought before the courts, they seem to get holiday camp sentences.
Why do you think that is?
I don't know. We seem to have a...
But that's if they actually get convicted of anything. The problem we had many years ago, and it doesn't seem to happen as much now, is that they bring the individuals to court. The key witnesses, the star witnesses, end up not turning up because they've been intimidated by somebody.
And there was a famous one in Limerick where it was a girl was a witness to it, and she said she couldn't remember. She was over her head on drugs. And the whole case collapsed. Now, she was obviously intimidated.
Of course she was,
and nothing could be done about that. It seems to be, like they say, if you commit perjury here, what will happen to you? And the answer is, nothing will happen to you.
Well, they did change the law, didn't they? Particularly for what happened in Limerick, where, say, for example, a superintendent can give evidence based on hearsay. In other words, which is enough to put somebody away. In other words, if a superintendent walks into court and says, I know this guy did it.
They changed it again to say that the law wasn't solid enough, and people were released, in particular in the sex cases.
I mean, when we see this guy, Alan Ryan, and see what he has been involved in, what he's been arrested for, what he's been connected to, the murders he's been connected to, and yet he's still walking the streets. Well, he's not anymore, but he was.
Well, he was. Like, I grew up in the north inner city, in a block of flats, very rough part of the world. I could name a list of guys that I know. I would call them personal friends. I don't like to be my friends, but we went to school together, and they're all habitual criminals. Their mothers, their fathers, the list is endless. They seem to go through the system and nothing happens to them. They don't get rehabilitated. Nothing happens. They go to court, they go to prison, they come out. As one guy said to me one day, he was copper driving, no insurance. I said, you'll probably do a month in prison. So I don't care.
Would you do 10 days in prison for not paying your TV licence? But unfortunately, if you murder somebody in this country and they can't convict you of it, you're going to walk away, aren't you?
Way to make sure you're all right. Like, I know of a guy, as I live in the Clondalkin area, I know the guy who tried to shoot someone. And he's in prison and he comes out, he's getting every benefit that's available to him.
Okay, well, hang on, just wait for a second if you can. Stay there, James. I want to go to, who have I got to go to next? Line 3, is it? Line 3, sorry. Sarah, you're in Clare. Stay there, James. Sarah, do you have any sympathy for this particular individual, Alan Ryan, who was murdered today, part of a gangland killing? Do you have any sympathy for these guys at all?
Actually, I do, kind of.
Why?
The simple reasons is they don't ask to be shot, you know what I mean? Like, I know a little bit about it, but they'd obviously look over their shoulders at some stage, you know. I'd say on an everyday basis, they'd look over their shoulders thinking, oh, fuck, I'm going to get shot. Sorry for my language, like. But...
Well, you're from Limerick. Where are you from? Clare, is it? Oh, Clare,
yeah.
Sorry. Okay, but I mean, you see these guys and they get shot all the time. It's always the end of the road for them. I mean, that always happens. There's no two ways about it. If you get involved in this kind of crime, you're going to end up dead at some point.
Yeah, but like that young fella that was shot the other day, that was at his brother's wedding. Now that wasn't. You couldn't have planned something like that at your own brother's wedding.
This is Robert Sheen. Yeah, Robert Sheen.
Yeah, you'd have to feel sympathy for that young fella. He didn't ask for it that exact day. Like.
But there's a lot of people sit there and say, are going to be listening to you tonight saying, why should I have any sympathy for a guy who was a lookout involved in a crime where 2 children have been almost destroyed, burnt in a car? Why would you have any level of sympathy whatsoever? That's what people are going to say to you.
Yeah, but that could be just rumours going around as well that he was a lookout, like and all. But rumours fly around the place, and the best part of people would believe rumours, and the best part of them, some of them wouldn't.
But he did time. So, he was jailed in 2007 for that petrol bomb attack.
Was that in Limerick?
Yes.
He wasn't jailed because he didn't do anything. He was jailed because he'd done something.
Well, that could be whatever. I'm not really sure. I never heard anything about that. But
well, read the newspaper. Read the newspaper. Listen to the news.
Did you see those 2 children when they were on the late? I think it was
horrific.
It was the toy show last year. They had the 2 of them on. Those two children had third-degree burns. Third-degree burns.
For life. Scarred
I
for
did
life.
feel sorry for those two kids at one stage. I heard a story about them and I didn't like the way things were being said about the kids and all, but still, even if someone's in a gangland crime or something and they get shot and whatever, you're going to feel a little bit of sympathy for the parents. They're not bringing it on their children.
Oh, no, we're not talking about the parents. We're talking about them. Do you feel sorry? I mean, you're saying, God, that was a terrible way to die outside his brother's wedding. But it makes no difference. People, even the Garda Síochána said they won't be missed. That's what the Guard said today. They said about Alan Ryan.
Like a toothache.
The Garda said about Alan Ryan, he was very dangerous. He won't be missed.
Well, I don't know about that murder that happened today. I only know mostly about the murder that happened the other day.
But I mean, it's more or less the same thing. We look at Alan Ryan. He's been connected with so many murders. He's been connected with the real IRA, extortion, extorting money from drug dealers, from local businessmen in the area for protection rackets.
Well, I'd basically say so. He had a lot of shit going down behind his back and he deserved to get killed. But for the other fella that got killed at his brother's wedding, that was uncalled for.
It was uncalled for?
Yeah, you just don't go around shooting people at your own family's wedding.
Well, maybe you shouldn't go around burning people in cars as well. Would you not agree that some people are going to say, Sarah, a life for a life?
Go and burn a child in the car.
Yeah, but you live by the sword, you die by the sword, don't you?
From what I was told, yeah, but
some
people do deserve it and some people don't deserve it.
Anyone who commits a crime deserves it. Put your hand in the fire, you're going to get burnt. Can she hear me?
She can indeed, yeah.
Yeah. Put your hand in the fire, you're going to get burned. If someone breaks into your house tomorrow and wrecks it, okay, and robs everything, what little value you have, and goes off and sells them a gold, how will you feel? Will you turn and say, well, I feel sorry for them? No, you won't. You'll go mad. You're one of these people who sits around saying, oh, the poor person's the poor person. The poor people are the victims. That guy won't be missed. And I just found out, as I said to you earlier, that I'm actually related through marriage and other things to that guy Ryan, right? Now, I know his parents, the best people on the planet, and they couldn't control him. And I'm going back 6-7 years ago when his father told me I can't control him. I have two choices, throw him out or shoot him. Now, someone's done his father a favour and shot him.
I said, if his parents couldn't control him, then there was nothing no one could do for him, which means, yeah, he brought it on himself, like.
Of course he did. What do you think criminals do?
Yeah, I know that.
Criminals do. Did they go out and rob people and murder people? Your man walked out of that hotel to have a cigarette. He was called on his mobile phone by some girl. He got shot in the head. The guard just said he won't be missed. Well, let's face it, he saved the state a lot of money. Because if we had to put him in prison again, it would cost thousands. Now he's dead. It would be cheaper to burn him than it would be to bury him. He stuck his finger in the fire and he burned his whole hand. End of story. Good boy, one left to pay for. Think about it. Ask him, did he ever work? Did he ever do a job? Like, what does your husband do for a living?
Sarah, you married? No?
No, I'm not.
Okay.
Right, I've no job. My job is gone, right? I work for a multinational Japanese company. I'm an electronics engineer. My job is gone. I'm going down to that dole in the morning, get 159 euros a week, because my pension has been robbed as well by the state. I've no sympathy for all these criminals. There's legalised criminals, the white collar, they all walk away. That guy went out and he robbed and he murdered for a living, and he had a great time. I'd love to know who's paying for the bill for the wedding he was at. I would think it was his sister's wedding. Who was footing the bill for that? Like, these people going, we've no money, we've nothing.
Well, in 1 year, as I mentioned earlier on to Ken Foy, Alan Ryan, they reckon accumulated €425,000 from that's just from protection, extortion.
Yeah, I wouldn't put it past him. His own sister was involved in a car crash in a stolen car where the man was killed, right? And she walked away and tried to sue the guy who owned the car. And that's a good few years ago, by the way. As I said to you earlier, I just found out I'm actually distant relation. A friend of mine rang me. As I say, I come from the north in the city. And I can remember when I was in the north, living in a block of flats in the north of the city, a very rough part of the city, by the way. Now, I still go in there, I still visit all the guys, I still have a drink every couple of weeks with them. They're all gouging, but they're still friends. And when I used to go to college, they used to make fun of me, but they were very nice to me and friends, because I went to school from baby school right the way up. They're still there. And I often said to one guy, would you not change your ways? And he said, I didn't get a fair chance in life. My father didn't. My mother didn't. I don't care. And he said, you have to start caring.
Okay,
Because funeral later. And by the way, that guy who said that to me, right?
Yeah.
I won't mention his name. His son was shot by the Gardaí.
Okay, hold on for a second if you can, James, right there.
Yeah.
Somebody says good riddance to him. These are the texts coming in, by the way. You can text us at 53544 here at Classic Hits 4FM. Good riddance to that scumbag. Deserved it for what he did to those kids. Somebody else says, no, I'll tell that guy he ain't related to the Ryans. I'm pretty sure of it. He's full of shite. Well, I'm sure he knows what he's talking about, so I don't know about that.
He can say what he likes.
Somebody else says...
Do you know where I come from?
Where do you come from, James?
You know Liberty Health Flat?
I do, yeah.
That's where I come from. Right? Because it was a step family.
Okay, well, hang on. I just want to read out some of the text here. No, I feel bad for those innocents in the middle and the angry at the shit liberal justice system that fuels it. I love the show. That comes from Scott and Cork. Somebody said, I just think it's sad that people choose that way of life. They cannot be happy by so evil, being so evil. That comes from Catherine. Somebody says, when these guys are 6 foot under, the cops know where they are and what they're doing. Sorry, can't come on the air. That comes from Brendan in Cork. And somebody says, hi, Niall. No, I couldn't have any sympathy whatsoever for those scumbags. That is 2 more toe rags off the street. Great show. That comes in from Esther in Galway. All right, give us a call. I want to know, do you have any sympathy? Sarah says she does have sympathy because she believes her, for example, in the case of Robert Sheen today, who died today, by the way, who was shot outside his brother's funeral there over the weekend. He was shot 5 times. This is the gentleman, of course, who was jailed in 2007 for the petrol bomb attack that turned the lives upside down of Millie and Gavin Murphy when they were burned, the 3rd-degree burns, and also, I suppose, mental scarring for the rest of their lives. And also Alan Ryan, who was shot in Coolock today, shot dead, who was believed to be notorious, not only for extortion, but also connected to some murders. And the Gardaí believe that he is a very dangerous man and he won't be missed. I'm asking you, do you have any sympathy? Text 53544, either yes or no, quite simply. Just keep texting in, or if you want to give us a call, you can. The number, by the way, is 1850 410 494. That's 1850 410 494. I've got to go to Maureen. You're in Galway. You're live in Classic Hits 4FM. Good evening to you.
Hi, Niall. How's it going?
How you doing, Maureen?
Not a bother. I'm listening to this with great interest here, and I happen to announce a sympathy for anybody that lives that way or gets involved in the crime or the whole lot. And I was listening to Sarah, but there's no justification. If they're going to live that way and get into the whole crime thing with guns onto that level, then they're going into a level that they should know what they're getting into. And if they can't play the game, then they shouldn't be doing it. No sympathy whatsoever.
Yeah, but didn't he do his time up in the prison for what he done to those 2 kids? Which means once he done his time, you just put it behind you.
Oh, Sarah, hold on a minute, darling. If someone destroyed you like that or destroyed your children, would you actually think that spending a couple of months or a couple of years in jail is enough? Hello. I don't know where you're thinking now, Sarah, but if it was my child and they did that, I'd probably be holding the gun myself.
So
I
what
wouldn't be
now?
letting them off with it.
What would you do? What would you do, Sarah?
Sarah,
Sarah, what would you do if it was your children, for example, in that particular case of Robert Sheen? It was your children that were in the car. Would you be
I
happy?
would go mad, yeah, but I want justice as well. And in all fairness, as much as I want justice, and once he's done his time, I wouldn't give a shit as long as he got locked up.
All right. So when
And
he
he
gets
done
out,
fucking
Sarah, and your
dangerous.
child is... So when he gets out, Sarah, and he starts living his life, going back to which he did, and get back into the crime which he did, and do whatever he did, and your child is going around completely scarred for life, will never have a life like, a lot of other people will, and you'd say that is fine. Sure, he did his justice. You'd be telling people, don't say anything. Sure, he's fine. He did his justice. He didn't mean to scar my children for life.
Is he the one that threw the petrol bomb at the car? No. Technically, it's not basically his fault if he didn't fuck it at the car. All right.
Well,
He was involved in the crime, Sarah.
exactly. He knew what he was doing.
Assuming there's no was talking about that.
Yeah, but Sarah, obviously, I don't know whether you know what you're talking about, but he was involved in the crime. That's like saying the guy who sits in the getaway car outside the bank is not involved in the bank robbery. He's just as guilty as the other 3 that run into the bank. He was involved in the crime. A crime where 2 children nearly lost their lives, almost did, and they're physically and mentally scarred for the rest of their lives.
Sorry, Noel. Can I come in there?
Yeah, sorry,
I don't
James.
know that.
No, can I come in there?
Yeah, go ahead.
James, what happened?
Just a simple thing. What was the crime?
Sorry, your phone is breaking up very badly there, James. Sorry.
Sorry, but what was the crime?
Sorry, maybe Mike can get you back there because your phone is very bad. Sarah.
Sarah, do you actually know the guy that did it?
Yeah.
You do?
The young fella that was shot at his brother's wedding, yeah, I know him.
The one that was responsible with the children that got destroyed for life. You know that lad, yeah?
Yeah, I do.
Same young lad.
Yeah.
That's why you're sticking up for him.
Sorry?
That's why you're sticking up for him. So because you know him and he was involved, if he was involved in the damage of your children, you'd let him off of it. Good woman yourself, Sarah.
If it was my own child, I'd do damage to him myself. But
exactly. I was just going to say that, Sarah. If it was your own child, you wouldn't be talking like this now because he wouldn't be alive anyway.
See, what you can't seem to understand is that young fella had a child on the way, and do not think it's lousy now that he won't ever get a chance to meet his unborn child.
Maybe he should have thought of that before he was involved in a crime where 2 children nearly lost their lives.
Yeah,
he was. Let's be honest with it. He was a scumbag. Sarah, he's a scumbag. He's a lowlife.
He was involved in an awful lot more than you're actually saying, Sarah. So he lived by it. He died by it. My son picks up a gun when he goes away on his work. And he has to do it for his job. Do you think he wants to shoot somebody? No. But if it comes at him, and he has to do that, and we have the fear that he lives by the gun, he will die by it. Hopefully he won't. But it's a fear every time he picks it up and goes away. And the likes of that guy out there who picks it up for a bit of fun or goes out to rob somebody or hurt somebody or sets fire to something or damages kids, and he doesn't deserve to die that way. You live by it, you die by it. Remember that, Sarah.
21 years of age, Robert Sheen was. Alan Ryan was a bit older. He was 32. Robert Sheen was 21. Sarah, he has been involved in an awful lot for somebody so young. Would you not agree?
And second child on the way.
Well, I'd say that could be down to the upbringing of the family. Or getting into a bad crowd.
Yeah, but does that matter to the victims, to his victims, and to Alan Ryan's victims? Does it matter how good his background is? I'm not casting any aspersions on his mother or father or any of the family, but does it matter how he was brought up? It's irrelevant to the victims. They don't care. The victims of the crime, I guarantee you, Gavin and Millie, when they get older, do you think they're going to be sad that one of the people involved in what happened to them was murdered? Do you think they're going to care?
I think they'd be relieved, but like I said, if it doesn't happen to me, I don't care.
Okay, well, just wait there for a second and stay there.
That is the biggest attitude that I see all the time. If it's not happening to me, I don't care.
And if you have a problem with it, feel free to come up to my face.
No, the attitude of people like you.
What did you say? Hold on for a second. Hang on for a second, Maureen. What did you...
I don't care about
Wait, Maureen, for a second. What did you say to Maureen and Sarah? If you have a problem with that, do what?
If she has a problem with it, feel free to come up and say it to my face, because I'm just about getting sick to death of everyone saying...
What's with the arrogant attitude? Yeah, what's with the arrogant attitude? Are people not allowed to debate? Are people not allowed to debate with you, Sarah, without you getting angry? Just because you know him. And it's not your kid, so you don't care. Don't threaten somebody in the air, Sarah.
But basically, now, I'm not trying to be smart and that, and I did think it was really lousy, those 2 kids getting burned. That young fella done his time. Right? And once he's done his time, he's out.
In 2007. He did his time in 2007.
Put behind you still.
Sorry?
So it doesn't matter. Once you do your
Well, I can tell you now, if it was my kids, if they were my kids, and he went to jail, and I knew he was outside at a wedding enjoying life 4 or 5 years later, I wouldn't be too pleased about it. Would you? You wouldn't be either, Sarah. Get over yourself. Don't be defending him.
Do you know what? Seriously, Niall, fuck yourself. Don't ever talk about my fucking cousin like that. Seriously, fuck yourself.
I
knew there was obviously an issue.
Yeah, and you know by the way she even comes across, Sarah, you'd want to behave yourself. You have respect for people. You'd know, by the way, if you saw a row in the street, you'd probably pass it, somebody getting kicked to death. You'd probably pass it and think nothing. And that's what I meant by your attitude. If it ain't happening to you, you don't care. You don't care about other people. And that is the whole social decorum that I see in that family. And that's why he was taken down. Okay, if you're going to live by it, Sarah, you will be taken down.
I'll tell you that, Maureen, she hung up there on her last word. Obviously can't face the music. All right, okay. Malachy, you're live on Classic Hits 4FM. Good evening to you. Stay there, Maureen. Good evening to you, Malachy. What do you want to say? You would have said to my producer outside, do you believe the media are building this up?
Yeah, well, firstly, I think there's no comparison between what happened in Cork and the execution of Alan Ryan in Dublin.
You mean in Limerick? What happened in Limerick, yeah.
Yeah, well...
Oh, sorry, in County Clare. In County Clare, yes. Sorry.
Right? There is no comparison between somebody who tortures a car with 2 young children and gets a very short sentence. He should have been kept in jail.
Yeah.
He wasn't. So the state failed those children. So I have no qualms, I have no sympathy for him. Obviously sympathy for his family and that, but, so be it. Alan Ryan is totally different. Alan Ryan and his brothers came from a strong Republican family, and they joined the Republican movement as teenagers, went into Fianna and moved on through and ended up in what's termed the Real IRA, right? Now, you yourself have said tonight that he was involved in so many murders.
He was Gardaí believe he was connected.
Well, the Gardaí can believe all they want. In this country, we have a system of justice. He has never been charged in relation to any murder. Because Paul Williams tells us something doesn't make it true. And it's clear that for the
hold on. It's not just Paul Williams. Let's be honest. He was arrested at the time of those murders. They were the first people arrested.
Hold on. When was he arrested for murder?
In 2010. He was arrested. He was questioned. He was questioned. Yes.
Questioned.
And his brother.
How many people are arrested?
There was 10 people. There was 10 people questioned at the same time.
And not one of them were charged.
And Gardaí believed that he had strong links to those murders.
Well, sure. Gardaí believe that he had strong links. It couldn't have been that strong of a link if he wasn't charged.
Hold on a second. Maliki, you know how hard it is to get a conviction.
The only matter that he has been convicted of was being found in a training camp in Meath.
In 2001.
And he served his time for that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Since the media decided to effectively identify two people from Donaghmede and paint them as leaders of an organisation which they were not leaders of at the time. They were simply young lads.
Mm-hmm.
And portray them and create, as they've done with many other people in the criminal underworld, create a mystique about them, create an image around them where people then try and live up to it to some extent. Plus they're blamed for everything that happens and somebody will take a shot at them. And it seems to me that there's no doubt today that Alan Ryan was murdered by people who peddle heroin to our children in this country.
Oh, there's no doubt about that.
From the law.
Yeah, but the group, Alan Ryan's group, the Real IRA, and the group that he was involved with, they were also suspected of attempts hits on the Gangland godfather, Eamon Kelly, as well, at the time.
Well, again, suspected of, right? Now, Eamon Kelly is somebody who served a considerable sentence for possession of cocaine in a hotel a number of years ago. I don't know if he's involved in the drugs trade, right? But there was, according to the media, which I don't believe anything that the media tells me in general, that the media said that he was attacked by people.
But why do you think the media talk about, and they, of course, they give individuals at times nicknames as well for legal reasons because they can't use their real names. Sorry, Maureen.
Because it sells papers.
No, not only because it sells papers. Do you not people? But hang on a second, Maliki. Do you not think people who live, say, locally to Alan Ryan and his brother and the rest of the gang members are entitled to know what they're up to? Do you not think people are entitled to know that?
It depends.
So if the guard are not going to give out that information,
it's true.
Yeah, but hold on. The guards are not going to walk door to door giving that information out to people.
So they ring up Paul Williams and he publishes it in the paper.
But it's not just. Hold on. It's not just Paul. There's more than Paul Williams in this country.
I'm using him as an example, right? You can take the Herald. I can't remember his name.
Well, we spoke
Paul
to
Reynolds from Marquee.
Well, hold on. We spoke to Ken Foy at the start of the show.
Country.
If you were listening to the start of the show, we had Ken Foy on from the Evening Herald.
I couldn't think of his name. Right? These people all make their living out of sensationalising these stories.
And what they're making it up, are they, Maliki?
A lot of it is made up.
Oh, so they're just making up stories.
Yes.
Do you think the legal teams in the newspapers, for example, in the Evening Herald, will allow Ken Foy to just make up a story?
Yes.
Let's just make it up.
Hold on. Most of it, because they don't clearly identify the individual, because the people already have convictions for something or other, that they can't sue because they don't have a reputation to protect, right? So anyway, that's the reality of the libel laws in this country, right? So they can.
But why don't they have a reputation to protect? Because they don't have a reputation because everybody knows what they're involved in. I'm sure there's many local businessmen in the area there tonight, and it's not just the drug dealers. It was innocent local businesmen who were probably hit for extortion and other protection rackets.
Hold on.
I'm sure they're all breathing a sigh of relief tonight.
You gave a figure, Niall, of €420,000.
425,000 a month, yeah.
I don't know anybody who would be the subject of an extortion attempt that would go and tell the police subsequent to it, right? Because if they took that step, then they would go and give evidence. They haven't been charged or questioned in relation to any extortion attempts.
So
right?
did the media in 2010, did they just pull that figure out of their heads?
I don't know, but sure, they might as well have said 10 million.
But why would they pick a figure of €425,000?
Huh?
Why would they pick that figure?
I don't know. Maybe it's the first figure came to their head. You know.
Do you not believe that certain individuals, be it the Paul Williams, the Ken Foy and everybody else in this world, have obviously got connections where they get this information from?
The connections within the Gardaí.
Connections in the Garda Síochána, possibly. Connections also within the underworld.
The Gardaí have an agenda.
Well, of course the Gardaí have an agenda. Why wouldn't they have? Because the Gardaí want these guys off the streets as much as everybody else.
Well, then charge them.
But how can they? When they don't have they don't have hard evidence.
Well, hold on a minute. This state has a huge police force, which is involved for 40 years in surveillance and monitoring of people who would be involved within republicanism. That didn't go away with the ceasefire. All of these bodies or groupings are infiltrated by agents from both Irish intelligence and British intelligence, and indeed, as we've seen in some cases, by American intelligence. And in another case, in fact, by German intelligence. Mm-hmm. But so the information is there, if it's true, and there's nothing to stop the state arresting, charging and convicting people if they're guilty. But if the evidence is not there to convict them, it's because perhaps they're innocent.
And perhaps they're too clever. And perhaps people are afraid to give evidence against them.
Who? You've already said that this figure of 420,000 came from somewhere. Should we have a state witness protection programme?
Yeah, but honestly, Malachy, okay, here's a question for you, Malachy, okay? If it was you, would you give evidence against Alan Ryan? Would you?
Yes.
With you, the wife and family, you'd give evidence against somebody like him? Somebody like him who wouldn't probably think twice about dealing with you?
Well, you see, here you go, making assumptions.
I'm not making assumptions. We know he's a criminal.
Many people
don't be in denial, Malachy.
Many people have
Why did the guards say today he won't be missed? That's a very bold statement to come out with, isn't it?
For the organ, the protectors, the guardians of the peace, right? For an organ of state to say about any citizen in this state. Isn't that a disgrace?
Yeah, but does that citizen still have rights? Do you really believe that that particular citizen deserves to have any rights?
Of course I do. Of course I do. Are you saying he shouldn't have any rights?
Okay, well, hold on for a second.
He has a right to a trial by jury.
Wait, no, Malachy, why don't you stay there for a second if you can? If you want to give us a call on this, you can. 1850 410 494. 1850 410 494. Or indeed, text us at 53544. I'm asking you, do you have any sympathy when Gangland members are shot? Malachy in Dublin believes, of course, the media are blowing this up out of proportion. In other words, they're making these individuals into Gangland members, almost. In other words, we're making this all into some sort of fairy tale.
Well, it'd be right, Niall, if we took Shawnee Fitzpatrick out then and shot him in the street and put a bullet in the back of his head. I think people would have little sympathy.
But hold on for a second. Let's be clear about this, okay? We're talking about different types of crime. Yes, one is as bad as the other, essentially. But people don't walk down the street in fear that they're going to be attacked by Shawnee Fitzpatrick. Shawnee Fitzpatrick doesn't walk up to businesses and demand money. Otherwise, somebody's going to be turned over.
What he does is...
Shawnee Fitzpatrick doesn't have day-to-day dealings with drug dealers.
And now, the Labour and Fine Gael government are taking the money out of your pocket. He has done more damage, and he's like to this country than 100 animals.
I agree with what you're saying, that he should be punished, equally punished. But we're not talking about that. Why is it, Malachy, every time we bring up a topic on this show, somebody mentions a banker?
Because it's what we define as crime.
Go back to what we're talking about. We're talking about a lowlife. We're talking about a man who was involved in crime.
I'm talking about Shawnee.
A man who lived by the sword and died by the sword.
Out of their houses. There are hundreds of thousands of young people haven't had to emigrate.
What's that got to do with this guy that died today?
Talking about
completely
crime.
Irrelevant.
You're talking about crime.
I'm talking about a different type of crime. We're talking about a crime where at the end of the day a victim can die.
To impoverish a country. But it's not okay to tell
did I say it was okay to impoverish a country? Shawnee Fitzpatrick is guilty as well. And should be dealt with as well.
What you're saying, Niall, is that it's okay for somebody to impoverish this whole nation, to destroy it for generations, but it's somehow wrong if somebody says to a drug dealer, you're not to sell drugs in this area anymore. Is that what you're saying, seriously?
Well, I tell you now, I'd rather have a banker lend recklessly than have some scumbag sell drugs to my kids.
Yes.
Okay, somebody says here, can you ask Malachy what does he work at? Has he ever been robbed or mugged? Does he have a clue what he's talking about?
I have.
I'm just asking the text coming in. Somebody else says, no sympathy for the scumbags, but Malachy is right about Williams and co. Media horrors, the lot of them. Somebody says, I have no sympathy, and I think that James should be made Minister for Justice and put the Minister on the dole. That comes in from Jerry. Somebody says, tell that caller that he's sticking up for the tough guys because they were not convicted, that they must have done something bad enough to be killed in the first place. What else were they doing? Drawing social welfare and being part of the real IRA? Painting their nails? I don't care what he says. People don't come forward to give evidence because they know what type of people they're dealing with. It's a fair point, Malachy. Okay, hold on a second. Yeah, he wouldn't have died today if he wasn't involved in crime.
Who have come forward and given evidence in trials where you would be afraid of people.
Malachy, would he be lying on a slab tonight if he wasn't involved in crime?
If he wasn't involved in the Republican movement in any of its factions, he wouldn't be lying on a slab.
Okay, hold on a second. If you want to give us a call on this, you can. 1850 410 494. That's 1850 410 494. Or indeed, text us yes or no to 53544. That's yes or no. Do you have any sympathy? All right, I want to go to Ivan. Please stay with me on hold, and everybody up for a long time here. But John, you're in Limerick. You're live on Classic Hits 4FM. Good evening to you.
Good evening, Niall.
How you doing, John? What do you want to say?
I just want to say there about the death for the Sheens that was shot, you know.
This is Robert Sheen, yeah.
Yeah, he deserved it. He deserved everything that came to him, you know. That you live that way. If you're prepared to live that way, you must be prepared to die that way, you know.
What do you think of what Malachy is saying, that the media blow it all out of proportion?
In one sense, they do kind of glorify him. I just like, if you want to see the best looking girls in Limerick, walk past Limerick prison, they're going to visit them and bring them in no tracksuits and tackies and whatever they have as well, and they're not any scum, you know. Because I had experience of it myself with two of my daughters. Like, I'm not going to say my name or anything, but I'm just saying, you know, that's the reality of it. Like, you know, here in Limerick, like, you know, and it when something happens in this town, within the space of 5 to 10 minutes, you'll find out who it is or who, you know what I'm saying?
Of course, yeah, but it's a obviously smaller town than I suppose Dublin.
You know,
yeah.
I mean, like, everyone knew like, that he was involved in the burning of the two children that time. Anyone that said that listens to the radio or the news or reads a paper, you know.
Okay, well, I mean, they did say at the time that he was one of the ones that came forward and obviously went as witness in relation to this particular crime. And of course, he did go to jail himself for it. But the point is that, as most people say, he was still involved.
Oh, he was involved, like, as simple as that. I've seen those two children stand in front of me, you know, and I've seen the state of it in and around them instructions. Like, I mean, anyone, I don't care what part your head at all, got away. You should be brought up in the wall and shot in my eyes anyway, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. You know, maybe that might sound a bit harsh, but like that'd be my mentality.
So you've no sympathy for them whatsoever. Basically, what you're saying is live by the sword, die by the sword.
Live by the sword, die for me.
Malachy, would you not agree with that sentiment? Even live by the sword, die by the sword. In other words, you shouldn't expect anything less. If you get involved in crime, put your hand in the fire, you're going to get burned.
Well, I think that it's quite clear that Alan Ryan, when he stood up against drug dealers and was prepared to deal with them, knew that he was on borrowed time.
What do you mean what do you mean stood up against drug dealers?
Well, this state has refused to stand up against drug dealers. And you have said yourself that you would consider somebody a lowlife if they sold your kids drugs.
Yeah.
Alan Ryan looked after people like yourself to protect your kids and removed a number of drug dealers from selling drugs and put them out of areas, etc.
And he wasn't extorting money from those drug dealers?
No.
So the papers made that part up as well?
Well, who would have said, are you going to believe it? If a drug dealer comes to you and says, Alan Ryan came to me and took €20,000 off me, by the way, I'm selling heroin.
So why was he doing all this?
Years.
Explain to me why he was doing all this. Because he was a good guy?
Because he's virulently, totally opposed to drugs.
So he was a good guy?
He was totally opposed.
So you're telling me Alan Ryan's a good guy?
Neil. You've asked me the question.
So he's a good guy? No, I'm just telling you, he's a good guy. Is that what you're saying to me?
Let me answer the question. Within his own extended family, he had to deal with the effects of drugs. And that was where his total hatred of drugs and drug dealers, like most of us.
Are you related to him, by the way? I'm just curious. No, I'm not having a go, I'm just curious.
No, I'm not. No, but I know him since he was in Fianna way back. Now, there are many of us who are totally opposed to drugs and drug dealers. And that comes about because of the effects that it has had on our families and on our communities. And I have no qualms about any drug dealer being put out of this country, out of these communities, out of this city, or in a hole if it comes to it. Because somebody who's prepared to sell heroin or cocaine to my kids or your kids is not deserving of anything. Now, if the state is not prepared to deal with them, then somebody else will have to do it. And if Alan Ryan, by doing that, has saved your kids and my kids and other people's children from a life on heroin, well then that is something to be commended, isn't it?
That's if what you're telling me is true.
Well, so you're after telling me that he was extorting from drug dealers.
Well,
So
that's what's being widely reported. Malachy, you obviously have more information than what's widely being reported.
I live in one of these communities. I've dealt with this
But
drug.
you're making him out to be an angel,
I haven't
Malachy.
said he was an angel.
You're making
I said he's done what he
you're
had
making
to
him
do.
out to be a great guy here tonight.
I have said that he was totally opposed to drugs.
Are you? Can I ask? Are you a member of the Republican movement?
I was a member of the Republican movement all my life. I'm not a member of the Republican movement now.
I mean, because I have a text here that says Alan Ryan did not stand up to rid the area of drugs. He did it to line his own pockets and the pockets of the Republican movement.
Well, you see, people, you need to check who's texting you. You know, I will meet people tomorrow and even today who, you know, had no time for Alan Ryan because they were drug dealers themselves and they had perhaps come in contact with him. Now, I'm not related to Alan Ryan. I was a member of the Republican movement all my life. Mm-hmm. I was never a member of the organisation of which he's a member of.
The real IRA.
So they say. Or of the 32 CSM, which would be its apparently its political wing. Mm-hmm. I was a member of what was traditionally the Republican movement, which ended up as the Workers' Party. But most people that I know are totally opposed to drugs, but most people will actually do nothing about it. Now, I don't agree with everything Alan Ryan done, and I had my own disagreements with him on a number of issues over the time.
What sort of disagreements did you have with
that
Alan
doesn't
Ryan?
matter, you know.
Well, it does. It's all relevant to the conversation, isn't it? I mean, if you're gonna big him up in one half and then you're going to turn around to him and say it doesn't matter.
Many people would have disagreements with people on different aspects.
So what were you? I'm not going to try and put you on the spot here, but what were your connections to Alan Ryan? You knew him.
I knew him.
All right. Okay. So explain to me first of all. You've heard of this group calling themselves the Criminal Action Force.
Yes.
Okay. I mean, was he involved with them?
The Criminal Action Force was a group of criminal drug dealers, the same as the organisation which emerged, led by Martin Cahill, way back in the early 80s. Mm-hmm. The same type of organisation. And that's the organisation which I understand is believed to have carried out the shooting at the Players' Lounge, where there was an attempt effectively on Alan Ryan, although he wasn't in the premises at the time.
That's right.
Two innocent people.
Well, they claimed responsibility for the murder of that dissident-linked hitman Daniel Gaynor, wasn't it, in Finglas?
Yes.
Over the summer, in the Players' Lounge.
But, I mean, this is a gang of criminals, a gang of drug dealers, and they were quite openly saying that they were criminals and drug dealers. The same as Martin Cahill's crowd was called, I think, Ordinary Decent Criminals, and they had marches at the same time as our counter marches against the Concerned Parents Against Drugs in its first incarnation.
Okay, well, hang on for a second, Malachy. Sorry, if anyone wants to give us a call, you can. 1850 410 494 or text 53544. Darren, you're in Dublin. You're live on Classic Hits 4FM. Good evening to you.
Hello, hi, how's it going?
How you doing, Darren? What do you want to say?
Hi, well, I'd just like to say I'm from the North Inner Sea area there now, and for a number of years, a local pub which I'm sure everybody in the area is aware of.
Don't mention its name on the air if you can.
No, I will not mention names, and I will not mention names of these pubs for legal reasons, but I'm sure a lot of people know this pub where these, what I'd call is gangsters, where they would bounce around the door of this pub, and there'd be young people going into the pub, and they'd be pulled aside. I was actually pulled aside myself, as was I, a drug dealer. I never sold a drug in my life, and not so long ago, which I don't know if I can mention, I won't say names, but wasn't there a pub in the Summerhill area where these lads were arrested for extorting money? I'd also like to say another pub in the Fairview area, where I will not say a name, where these lads are saying, that chap says they're against drugs. Mm-hmm. But why was there drugs found and ammunition found in a pub down there? And this was put out that these people were supposed to be members of IRA. Why was there cocaine found on the premises?
Well, do you want to answer that, Malachy?
Well, firstly, in relation to the substance that he alleges was cocaine, as far as I'm aware, that charges have been dropped in that, and it was discovered that it wasn't cocaine. In relation to the rounds that was found, as far as I'm aware, they were found in an old outhouse that nobody had been in for years. And, you know, your caller there says that he was stopped by bouncers going in and asked, was he a drug dealer, and he's not. And, you know, I've no problem with somebody being asked, are they a drug dealer going into a pub. I would only wish that all of the pubs in this area would have the same policy.
Well, the one issue I have is with anybody that holds a licence to be a security man who's an ex-criminal. And Anthony Ryan, who's Alan Ryan's brother, of course, has a security licence, hasn't he?
I'd just like to say, was caught in a training group in 1999.
Yeah.
If I'm right.
Yeah, with the real RA, yes.
Yeah.
I thought there was a law brought out where if you have criminal convictions, you can't be a security guard or a bouncer on the places like this. I thought we brought a law out for this. These people were intimidating. These people were going out, and these people were extorting people. Fair enough. I don't agree with drug dealers. I never did agree with drug dealers. But who gives these people the right to go out and extort money out of these people? And then, for their own cause.
Well, sure, if you're not a drug dealer, how do you know they're extorting anybody?
Oh, how do I know that? I live in the North Inner City, Malachy. You're not far from it yourself, Malachy. And I'm sure you know, like, come on, let's be honest about it. Everyone on the street knows what you were doing.
Yeah, and anybody I know that they ever visited was a drug dealer.
Oh, well, I've seen people that
may have denied that they were drug dealers.
Well,
if you live in the inner city, you know the truth.
Well,
I'll be coming on here spinning nonsense.
So you seem to be getting annoyed about this, Malachy. So do you agree with these lads actually extorting people out of money?
I have said that, as far as I'm aware, there was nobody extorted, but I certainly have no difficulty in any organisation.
Around there and said anyone that you know was a drug dealer.
What?
Now you're mixing your stories up. First it says you don't.
How am I mixing it up?
Now it just says that anyone that you know of was a drug dealer.
Anybody that I know of that was visited by them was a drug dealer. Yes.
So who do you know, Malachy? Obviously, you know obviously an awful lot, Malachy, don't you?
I'm not going to start naming people.
Well, no, I'm not asking you to name people, but you obviously know an awful lot more than you're pretending to know.
I'm not.
In relation to what's going on with Alan Ryan.
Ensuring that you're not sued, Niall.
Oh, Malachy,
so who's going to sue me, Alan Ryan?
Or that I'm not sued.
Well, who's going to sue me, Alan Ryan?
Well, hold on. The question you've asked was about drug dealers. You don't seriously expect me to start naming people.
I'm not suggesting you name people on the air. But if you have information in relation to drug dealers, would you knock onto the Garda Síochána yourself about that?
I can guarantee you that the Gardaí know every drug dealer in this community, know what they're at and where they are. But there's a political policy in this state to not intervene with them and allow them to carry on their trade.
And is there a political policy? Is there a political policy to allow the likes of Alan Ryan or his ilk to go around and extort money from those drug dealers and keep control of them?
Because the state has always taken a different view in relation to anything that may involve Republicans, and that has been the situation since the creation of this state. That Republicans have always been dealt with in a different way and a much heavier-handed way.
These guys were given bail conditions to stay out of the Dublin 1 area, to stay out of the Dublin 3 area.
Yeah.
These guys were going into pubs in these areas.
You've seen them in Dublin 1 and 3?
Oh, yeah, I didn't indeed.
Since the bail conditions were put in, before the bail conditions were changed.
I could tell you this, Malachy.
You've seen them in Dublin 1 and 3, have you?
No, but I've seen them in the Dublin area, in the Dublin 7 area, just straight after. Oh, fair enough, Malachy. You haven't been in it since the bail
conditions did not say Dublin 7.
No.
Right? Wasn't this the reason why the state was unable to arrest them at the protest against the Queen's visit because Dublin 7 was outside of the bail conditions? Isn't that right?
As I just said,
spinning and coming on here saying
no, Malachy, you know as well. As I just said, that's why they based themselves in the Dublin 7 area. Just after.
That's why they based themselves in Dublin 7. Because the protest against the Queen's visit was in Dublin 7. Because that was at the back of Dublin Castle, and that was where the police lines were drawn up.
They based themselves in the Dublin 7 area basically because they couldn't extort money and they couldn't go into pubs. The way they were going into pubs and trying to shut pubs down because they couldn't get the business going into there, and they weren't happy. So it's all right for them to go into Republicans and extort Republicans out of their money because the Republicans are bringing drug dealers in. So you're telling me it's all right because closed 2 years? Because we know why it was closed. Everyone knows that. Sure, it was all over the Sunday world, you know.
Where was it closed?
Come on, Malachy.
Why
Come
was
on.
it closed? You tell us.
Well, Malachy,
You tell us why it's
I
closed.
could easily put you, the Players' Lounge had a fire, right? I won't say online. I won't say why, how that started. I won't say
tell us
that
how it started
because
then.
for legal
Because you seem
reasons.
to know.
Oh, Malachy, I know a lot. And Malachy, there's a lot I know I'd like to say in air, but I couldn't say in air. And Malachy, there's a lot you know as well about these guys. And I am very, very shocked to hear yourself taking up for these guys.
Well, I
Okay, well, one of the texts that comes in here, Malachy, and it says, can you ask Malachy, he took money from drug dealers but didn't stop them selling it, so how good is he really?
Who?
I'm just telling what the texter said.
I've
We're
said,
talking about Alan
to
Ryan.
my
We're going back to
knowledge,
Alan Ryan.
That didn't happen. I don't know. The only people telling me
But you're
that
telling me
are
that
yourself.
doesn't happen. So why is it everybody else except you believes that happens, Malachy?
Because I can see no evidence that it happened, and I can't imagine a drug dealer going to the Gardaí and saying, hello, Mr. Garda, I'm a major heroin dealer in the North Inner City, and Alan Ryan came and took money off me.
Do you really believe
Do
a
you
drug
really
dealer's
believe
got...
somebody's going to report that to the Garda?
No, they're not going to report it to the Garda, Sheikh, but I'm sure the guards have
already
inside
told Williams,
information.
did he?
But hold on, the Garda would have information from drug dealers in the area.
Well,
Listen, that's the point I'm already
Darren, are
making.
you surprised that Malachy's actually defending Alan Ryan?
Well, I'm very surprised. And another thing I'd like to say, okay, I've no time for scumbag drug dealers as well as these guys. I've no time for these. But as I'd like to say there, and a lot of people know, as I said, I'm from the North Inner City, and I like to say, these people that call themselves IRA, these people were recruiting drug dealers off the street. They were going around them, and I've seen it with my own eyes. They were recruiting drug dealers, and these drug dealers then were going around using these as name, and they're hitting younger lads in the street with using the name and thinking everything's grand. People were terrified of these people. These people were scumbags. They were recruiting drug dealers that were terrified of them.
Do you want to respond to that, Malachy?
Well, firstly...
Because, as you said yourself, by your own admission, you were involved in the same organisation many years ago in the IRA.
Not involved in
a Republican organisation.
I was involved in the Republican movement, not in the same organisation.
But Malachy.
Let's be quite clear.
Okay, no, but what I'm saying to you is, you are very well aware of Alan Ryan. You've been. Are you an acquaintance? Would you consider yourself an acquaintance?
I'm an acquaintance of a huge amount of people, Neil, right across all of the Republican groupings and all political groupings in this country.
Mm-hmm. So you would know what's going on?
Of course.
But yet you seem to be completely denying the fact that this guy was involved in anything.
I didn't say that. What I said was...
But you're painting a wonderful picture of him. Why were you painting this wonderful picture of him as almost the defender of the truth, the defender of everybody, the defender of drug deal, of kids being sold drugs?
You're trying to twist...
I'm not trying to twist it, Malachy, but when everybody else is saying one thing and you come on and tell me something completely different...
What I have said is that the media have an agenda, and that agenda was to ensure that what happened today happened. That is the same agenda which the Gardaí have pursued for quite a number of years. You have said that he was involved in extortion. I have said I don't know anything about that.
Hold on. The fact that you don't know anything about it, Malachy, doesn't mean it didn't happen.
But of course, yes, of course.
Yeah. So it could have happened.
Of course.
Yeah.
And he could have pushed Humpty Dumpty off the wall as well.
I know he's a silly Malachy. Now you've been silly.
He could have done anything. I'm telling you what I know.
I'd just like to say, it's starting here, I'd just like to say, I wouldn't even have ring in this show if that man was still alive. That man had people
if he was still alive, the show wouldn't be on. I mean, that's a stupid thing to say.
That man had fear, and people in fear of his life. And I'd be so much in fear. I wouldn't have ringing if that man was still alive. I'd be in that much fear myself. I'm not a criminal. I'm not a drug dealer. But I do not support people who go around.
Hold on, Malachy. Don't be asking a ridiculous question. Why do you think he'd be in fear of him?
I don't know. He said he wasn't a drug dealer.
Well, firstly, we couldn't be having the show if he was still alive.
I made that point.
Yeah, okay. But secondly, why do you think he'd be in fear? People wouldn't ring in if he was alive.
Why would they ring in if he was alive?
Why do you think people are afraid of him? Why do you think people were afraid of him? People who, acquaintances who knew him, drug dealers who knew of him, people, businessmen in the area. Why do you think they were afraid? Malachy, why do you think they were afraid of him?
I have no difficulty in drug dealers being afraid of anybody.
Well, why do you think?
They're certainly not afraid of what passes for the state here.
And why did the Garda Síochána, for example, say that there's connections with murders? Why do they make these comments? Do you think they make them just to put it out there and have a bit of fun and, give somebody a bad name for the sake of it?
Because it's part of the demonisation process that they go
So
through.
the Garda do this just to demonise people. They don't demonise themselves. You don't believe Alan Ryan demonised himself?
Sure, Malachy, the only reason you're ringing in is because he's dead himself.
No, it's not. On this show, every couple of nights about
I
something
understand that. But Malachy, I am sure you would not be ringing in if that man was still alive.
Well, sure, I wouldn't be on the programme if he was alive.
Oh, but it was a topic brought up about him, Malachy. I reckon you still wouldn't be on the show. Because, Malachy, you know as well as I do, that man would not be happy hearing your voice. And as you say, you know the man. I'm not saying that you're an associate. I'm not saying that. You says you know the man. But no way would you be getting on the show. That man would not be happy with that.
I'm not concerned about whether anybody is happy or not. On this issue and any other issue that I'm discussing on this station or other stations, will say what I feel like saying and what I feel to be right. But
the point Darren is making, if for whatever reason we could have had this show this time last week, which we couldn't have, but if we could have had this show, you wouldn't be on the air, man.
I wouldn't, Niall.
No.
And I think your researchers will confirm that it's likely that I would have been on.
No, I don't think you really would, Malik.
Well,
I think like everybody else, you would have a certain fear that,
No, I certainly wouldn't. And because these matters have been discussed previously in relation to, for instance, when the shooting happened at the Players' Lounge, I was on some stations. I'm not sure if I was on your station. I may have been on the afternoon show. Mm-hmm. And, people would pick me up on various different stations.
Could I ask why you'd have no fear being on the show with this man?
No, I have no fear. Why would I have any fear?
If he was still alive, could I ask why you'd have no fear?
Why would I have no fear?
You seem to be a spokesman for this man. Could I ask why you'd have no fear?
I'm not a spokesman for anybody.
Oh, well, I'm sure myself and every listener listening to the show tonight would think he has a spokesman, because you seem to be a spokesman for this man the way you're going on.
How can you say that?
How can I say that?
Is Paul Williamson a spokesman for the Garda? Is Paul Reynolds a spokesman for the Garda?
As I'll say, and I'll say again.
So anybody who comes on and tries to set it out as it is a spokesperson for somebody or other?
Oh, no, not at all, Malachy. Not at all, Malachy.
Well, I think, Darren, you should actually be honest in where you're coming from in this,
Darren, where are you coming from in this? First of all, Darren, do you have any sympathy at all for Alan Ryan, for the death of Alan Ryan today?
Well, I can tell you this.
That's the question, Darren.
I can tell you this, and I'll answer.
You don't, do you, Darren? And tell us why you have no sympathy.
I've no sympathy.
Let's be honest about it.
I've no sympathy for him. I've full respect for the Republican Army, but I've no respect for that man. That man was a scumbag. That man terrorised people in my area. That man started in 1999 when he was first based in the training camp. Okay.
So he was terrorising people when he was a teenager. Is that what you're saying?
No, I'd never said that. You're taking your
you said he
taking your own words into
people
account
in 1999.
No, you're taking your own words into account. If you let me speak, I'd say my mind.
Answer the question and tell us why you'd be afraid of him. Because I don't know anybody who's not a drug dealer who would be afraid of him.
Oh, I can answer that question, no problem. I've often been on nights out and I've been down there, and I've sit with a few of my friends, and we've been asked, lads, what are you doing? You stand at the toilets. And I've never touched a drug in my life, and believe it or not, I'd have the occasion drink. I'd have the odd drink. I wouldn't even be drunk, so I'd never be drunk when I'm sitting there. And I've seen him thump my friend for spilling a drink, and was told, get out of the place. Do you know who we are? And if you come back again, you'll be getting your kneecaps done. I don't agree with that. You can tell me, oh, no, he wouldn't have done that. He's no angel. I've seen it with my own eyes.
Me like that in the pub, I wouldn't be going into the pub at all.
Oh, we never went back to the pub after that. I was terrified. I was in fear to go back to the pub.
If that's what he said, Malik, if that's what he said to him, Malik, I can only take Darren's word for it.
He
was hardly a likeable... Well, hold on, Malik. He was hardly a likeable individual.
I didn't say he was a likeable individual.
Well, you're making him out to be an angel tonight.
I didn't. All I have said was, in comparison to the guy who was killed in Cork, that there was in fact no comparison. That one guy attempted to murder two children, torched a car, and almost burned them to death. Okay,
well, hold on, both of you, if you can. Darren, can you stay with me as well for a second, and Malachy? If you want to give us a call on this, 1850 410 494, text 53544. The question I'm asking you tonight is, do you have any sympathy for Alan Ryan, of course, who was murdered today in the Coolock area in Dublin? Alan Ryan, who Garda believe was connected to murders. He was also connected with extortion, notorious for racketeering, extorting cash from drug dealers and businessmen across the city and demanding protection money from firms. That's according to the Garda Síochána. They also also said he was very dangerous and he won't be missed. I'm asking you, do you have any sympathy? 53544 is our text number. Yes, you have sympathy, or no, you don't. You heard Malachy already believes that the media are blowing this out completely out of proportion. Ivan, you're live on Classic Hits 4FM. Good evening to you.
Good evening, Niall. How are you?
How you doing, Ivan? What do you want to say?
Thank you. I think, I mean, while I don't have sympathy really for that man that was killed today, but I think it's the shit really that his family have to put up with after, and they've got to pick up the pieces. Mm-hmm. You know, they're probably innocent bystanders. Of
course, yeah. I mean, his mother and father, as somebody said already, your mother and father don't raise you to become this kind of individual.
You can't tar them with the same crap, but at the same time, I don't know the people who murdered him today. You know how they can even sleep tonight, thinking what they did. You know, they're actually worse than him.
Are they really worse than him? Because at the end of the day, they're all involved in the same carry-on. Do you understand what I'm saying? They're all criminals. They're all putting their hand in the fire. They're all going to get burned.
Yeah, I know they're all criminals, but I mean, you know, how can you go with a loaded gun into a place and pump 5 or 6 bullets into a fella's head and walk away as if nothing happened?
Yeah, but I couldn't do it, and you couldn't do it, Ivan. But they can, and they will sleep tonight.
Oh Jesus, I don't know.
You know, I mean, those kind of individuals, that's what they do.
Yeah, I know. But it's a whole vicious circle, you know, whether it's drugs or whether it's republicanism or whatever. You know, it's a whole vicious circle. And as they say, okay, the guards will say, regardless, they'll say, okay, he mightn't be missed. And okay, you know, I mean, I think that's what most people would say, he mightn't be missed if he was a racketeering or whatever. I didn't know the man from Adam. Mm-hmm. But, I mean, you know, that's what they're saying, and that's what the popular media are saying. You know? So,
well, Malachy believes, of course, the media are, I don't know what he's saying, they're suggesting that everything is being made up just to make him look bad.
No rubbish anyway, you know. Yeah, okay, you can, you know, some of the things the media can say can be
sensationalised, yes.
Sensationalised, but I mean, I think there are boundaries to that. Mm. You know?
I mean, that's a fair point, Malachy. Yes, I would be the first one to agree that the media sensationalise stories sometimes, but there has to be a level of truth in what they're sensationalising in the first place.
Well, that's a matter of opinion.
Well, it's not. I mean, it's a matter for the courts to deal with. If somebody makes something up, they'll be in jail.
Don't come from before the court, because the media just spins it out, and there may be a grain of truth somewhere in it. But to continually blame people for something, next week we'll have moved on to blaming somebody else for everything that happens. And
nobody is blaming Alan Ryan for everything that's happened in this country. But what we are saying is that this guy, according again to the Garda Síochánas, was notorious for racketeering, extorting cash from drug dealers and businessmen across the city, and demanding protection money from firms. Well, so you telling me none of that happened? So the Garda Síochána are wrong.
What I have said,
Malachy, are you telling me that didn't happen?
The only thing I have said is that the only people telling me that is the Garda and the media.
And what do you expect Alan Ryan's gang are going to tell you?
If any of those things are true, well then he should have been brought before a court. And we've somebody like Darren who has a vested interest, I was suggesting, in these matters. You know that.
What do you mean he has a vested interest?
I'm not going to say I know who Darren is, and Darren has an interest in this matter. And I'll talk to your researchers offline. I'm not going to say, and Darren knows, and his involvement in.
Have you a vested interest, Darren?
Sorry.
Have you got a vested interest in this matter?
Oh, yeah, I certainly do not.
You don't, do you? Right, fair enough then. You must be watching the sub judice rules then, are you?
Malachy, could I ask you one question, Malachy? Could you tell me where you could get the money to buy BMWs? They're driving brand new BMWs. As you said, you know these guys. They're driving brand new BMWs. They're driving brand new CBRs. They're driving brand new Lexuses. These people are supposed to be security guards, bouncers on pubs. It's like, they're going around extorting this money. Like, I thought this is for a cause like this. As you say, it's for a cause. But there seems to be this money going into like the likes of this stuff. Like,
well, I have no idea about that. But perhaps you would have a better idea on money, Darren.
Sorry.
Perhaps you'd have a better idea on where the money comes from and where it goes, would you?
Well, I know they're taking the money from scumbag drug dealers.
Oh, so they're taking money from scumbag drug dealers?
Yes, Malachy, yes.
And what category would you fit into then?
Well, Malachy, I work all my life. I've never sold drugs. I've never had a criminal conviction.
Oh, I know that.
Malachy, as you know that yourself. You know me, Malachy.
Yeah.
And these guys, as I said, Malachy, I'm not here to take this thing out on you. I just don't like these guys.
You don't like the picture that's being painted of Alan Ryan?
I mean, you had a run-in with them yourselves, Darren. Isn't that right?
I had a run-in with them.
Yeah.
No, a friend of mine had a run-in with them.
Oh, right, a friend of yours, yeah. A close friend, then. A business associate, no doubt.
Well, my work partner was actually my colleague.
Okay, well, we'll say no more on it because we don't want to be falling foul of any sub judice rules on that.
So you have a vested interest, Darren, in this particular story.
That's the point I made, and that's the only reason, Darren.
Yeah, but then by your own admission, Malachy, if Darren has fallen foul of Alan Ryan, I mean, obviously he's not a nice person. For whatever reason, he's fallen foul.
I've never met Darren. I know who he is. I don't know whether he's a nice person or not.
But I'm just saying, if for whatever reason, if I don't know what you're suggesting or what Darren's suggesting, well,
emerge in time.
Maybe it will emerge in time. But okay, but in saying that, I mean, we're still painting this. You're still defending him, Malachy.
Darren would have close.
Darren has asked he's asked a fair question there. Alan Ryan, for example. No, I don't know. I mean, obviously, I'm only going by what Darren is telling me. What sort of cars he was driving and what CBO motorbikes and all this kind of thing. And he was doing a bit of door work. Is that what he was doing, by the way? Door work?
I don't know.
Okay, well, I mean, where did the money come from?
He wouldn't have a security pass, as far as I'd be aware, because as you've said yourself.
Well, his brother did. His brother had a security license.
Yes, his brother I don't think has any convictions.
No, I'm just saying his brother had a security license. Well, no, his brother, hold on a second.
He should be hung for what our brother does.
Oh, no, hold on a second. His brother Anthony was also in jail as well back in 2001.
Yes, but he has a number of brothers.
Yeah, okay, but I'm talking, he is the one with the security license. Okay, so go back to Alan Ryan.
I don't know.
Oh, okay, well, he did, according to the papers, he did.
Well, of course. I don't know.
All right, well, so going back to Alan Ryan, where, if this is the case, where did all this money come from?
What money?
To buy BMWs, CBR motorbikes.
I don't know anything about BMWs. Or fast cars or anything like that.
But Malachy, you don't want to know about that stuff, but you're quite happy to defend him on the air, so you're not doubting anything he said at all.
What you want to know.
The only one that's told me he had a BMW is Darren.
Oh, Malachy, you seem to know what you want to know about these people, but when it comes to anything about crime or anything, you don't want to know these people.
I don't know what he drives. Anytime I've met him, he's been on foot.
Okay, well, hang on, lads, both of you can, because I just got to go to Billy, and I'm going to take a break, but Darren and Malachy, I want you to stay there with me for a second. Billy, you're in Dublin, you're live on Classic Hits 4FM. Billy, this guy, Alan Ryan, do you have any sympathy for him?
No, not really, no. Just a sympathy, like the chap said there, I'm going to go for his...
As for his family, of course, yeah.
Ordered, I'll have to bury him, yeah. Just 3 quick points tonight. The first... Sorry, I was waiting so long now.
I'm sorry, Billy, yeah, I do apologise.
The first point was, obviously he didn't get... He was in way too over his head, and whoever killed him will sleep well tonight, but they should get as much sleep as they can, because they won't be able to sleep soon, because they'll eventually get hit themselves, as you know, because this is a different thing.
It's like a game of drafts, isn't it? Yeah.
Right? Can you hear me now?
Yeah, can I just move your head a little bit, Billy? You're breaking up a little bit.
Sorry.
Yeah, okay, so it's like a game of drafts, isn't it? A game of chess, yeah.
Whoever killed him will get done eventually. Time will catch up with him. The second thing is, Alan Ryan and people like him should be in jail. All of them should be rounded up. We have new legislation now where it's illegal to be in a legal organisation like the RIRA or whatever the fuck they call themselves.
The real RIRA, yes.
Yeah, and the same with Republican or Unionism. It's illegal to be in a legal organisation, so they should be rounded up. And thirdly, that chap that was on, Darren, he seems to be very on the ball. The reason why there's been no convictions for them people is because it's through intimidation. And I just remembered an incident there about 2 years ago of a pub in Summerhill, like Darren says. It was called the Castle, I think. The fellow that owned it, I can't remember his surname, but he...
Okay, please don't mention people's names on the air anyway.
This guy had to go to England because he was being threatened. He had to go to England, him and his brother. So they went to England for a few months. They came back and they made a statement against the Ryans and company. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, amazingly, then a couple of months later they withdrew it. But obviously they withdrew through intimidation, you know. So that's the nuts and bolts about it.
You see, Malachy, this is what comes back to again, and you were saying, why don't the Garda get convictions? In a lot of cases, it's very difficult to get a conviction because most people are maybe not as brave as you, Malachy, and won't stand up to them.
Sorry, I missed that.
The point that you said they don't get convicted. The reason they don't get convicted, as Billy has quite rightly pointed out, is that sometimes people get intimidated.
Well, people only have to look through a series of trials right through the past 30 years where people have come into court and given evidence against people involved in Republican activity or people involved in gangland and criminals. People are prepared. We've seen only a recent case in Limerick where the former partner of some of these people stood up in court.
Mm-hmm.
And
where are they now?
Right.
Are you talking about the Collins family?
Yes.
Yeah, and where are they now? Where are they now? Okay, well, let's use the Collins family as an example then. Because the Collins family, they were ones who stood up in... But I'm just saying, let's use them as an example. They stood up in court and gave testimony, and they had to move.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because again, the state didn't do its job and fully remove those people and deal with it. And to be fair to the Collinses, they were prepared to stand up. So if people are prepared to stand up, and, people have stood up, and it says more about the moral character of people who don't stand up to them than it does about anything else. Okay,
so Billy, you're not disappointed. You've no sympathy, apart from obviously from the family who have to bury these individuals.
Can I ask Malachy something there?
Yeah, you can. Go ahead, Billy.
Was any of them, the Ryans, are they involved in a legal organisation? Are they in the IRA or IARA, whatever?
Well, I'm not in the IRA, so I wouldn't know.
All right, but I'm just saying...
But you seem to know an awful lot more about the Malachy than everybody else. That's the point he's making.
I've told you I've been a Republican all my life.
Okay, if you're a Republican, are you a Republican all your life?
Yeah.
Okay, and you're a member of the Republican movement many years ago. No, many years ago you said...
I'm not a member of anything.
Okay, but years ago.
Currently.
Well, years ago you said you were a member of the Republican movement.
I'm a member of the Republican movement, yeah.
Yeah, okay. Okay, so you'd still have connections. You'd still be acquaintances with people who were in the Republican movement.
Sure, I told you that.
Okay, so, well then surely you would know, and you seem to know Alan Ryan quite well, surely you'd know if they're in the real IRA or not.
I'm not going to say, I don't know who's in the It's a secret organisation.
Yeah, it's a legal
Barry
organisation.
Adams said he wasn't in the IRA. Martin McGuinness said he left the provisionals in 1972.
Yeah, but he was still a member of the IRA.
Well, I don't know whether he was or not. I wasn't a member of the IRA.
I'm not suggesting you were. What I'm saying is you would have acquaintances and friends, and I'm sure you still keep friendly connections with. You still keep friendly connections with a lot of the people. You seem to know an awful lot about Alan Ryan and the family. So surely you'd know that. So surely you'd know that, Malachy, then.
Well, people don't come
He's
along
dead,
and say,
Malachy. It's not Malachy. He's dead. Unfortunately for the family, he's died. So it's irrelevant now.
You would have to ask the IRA in all its various forms if he was a member. And I'm sure perhaps one of the groupings will make a statement acknowledging him as a member if he was a member.
All right, listen, we've got to take a break.
But
Billy,
I don't know. I'm not a member.
Billy, thanks for that. I appreciate it. Sorry for holding everybody. All right, sorry for holding everybody so long. I'm going way over time in the break. Somebody just texted and said, could you tell me what subjudice means? Malachy keeps saying it all the time. It's a term used, generally speaking, in the media for something, if it's an ongoing court case, for example. If something is ongoing in the courts, you can't discuss it on the air because it's considered to be contempt of court. So if you're talking about an ongoing court case, you must only stick to the facts. That's what just subjudice is. All right. Okay, listen, what we got to do is we got to move on. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be back. We'll hopefully talk to Malachy and Darren again after the break. If you want to give us a call, you can. Or text us at 53544. I want to know, do you have any sympathy, very quickly, for Alan Ryan, who was killed today in cold blood? He is, of course, according to Garda Síochána, 32 years of age, notorious for racketeering, extorting cash from drug dealers and businessmen across the city. You heard Ken Foy from the Evening Herald earlier on, who said this is probably one of the key murders in the last few years. Probably next to, I suppose, the Don would have been the last one of these key murders that we'd seen in this particular city. And I'm asking you, do you have any sympathy? Just text yes or no to 53544. If you want to call in, you can call the show and be on the air on 1850 410 494.
Real people, real opinions, real talk. The new home of late night talk for Ireland. Niall Boylan at night on Classic Hits 4FM.
Warning.
Niall Boylan at night contains topics, opinions, and conversations that are not suitable for children.
Listener discretion is advised.
It's a very good evening to you. Niall Boylan here with you on Classic Hits 4FM till 1am in the morning. What we're talking about, of course, is a leading terror figure has been killed, an associate injured in a gangland-style gun attack in North Dublin. The victim, named locally as Alan Ryan, has several previous convictions and is known by detectives for his links with the real IRA. The 32-year-old was notorious for racketeering, extorting cash from drug dealers and businessmen across the city, according to The Independent. Now, a Garda source today said he was very dangerous and he won't be missed. He said anyone could have done this, even one of his own people. I'm asking you tonight, do you have any sympathy? And of course, we spoke earlier on as well about the death of Robert Sheen, who died today, 21 years of age. He was jailed in 2007 for a petrol bomb attack that turned the little, you remember those two little kids, Millie and Gavin Murphy. He turned them into human fireballs. And, of course, he was shot 5 times over the weekend in the Bunratty Castle Hotel. Outside, actually, while he was having a smoke, and he died today. And I'm asking you simply, do you have any sympathy whatsoever for gangland figures who were shot? A lot of people say you live by the sword, you die by the sword. Malachy has been on already to us for the last 20 minutes or so, and so has Darren. Darren has no sympathy whatsoever because Darren believes these individuals were involved in taking money from drug dealers and not sorting out a drug problem at all, whereas Malachy believes they actually had a concern. They were against drugs and they were cleaning up the area. 53544 is the text number. I asked you, do you have any sympathy? Just text yes or no. Or if you want to, you can give us a call on 1850 410 494. Stay with me, lads, if you possibly can. I want to go to Paul. Paul, you're in Dublin. You're live on Classic Hits 4FM. Good evening to you.
Good evening. How you doing?
How you doing, Paul? What do you want to say?
Well, first of all, I want to send my condolences to his family. It is sad at the end of the day. He was a good person. He was good in everybody. This man did a lot for the community to get drugs out of the community, contrary to what people are saying.
Contrary to what the Garda are saying, contrary to what everybody is saying.
Absolutely. And this is anti-Republican spin in the paper, and it's been ongoing for 6 to 8 years. And the Garda have a lot of responsibility in the death of this man. The Evening Herald does.
What do you mean the Garda have responsibility in the death of this man?
The Garda, as you know, as you're already well aware, lets information slip out to the papers, to the media. Okay, and his face of him and his brothers have been in the paper week in, week out for the past 3 to 4 years. Okay? Blackening the name of Republicans.
But why do you believe, Paul, they would have his face in the paper? Why do you believe the media, for example, and the different journalists involved in the media who would be crime correspondents were homing in on him? Why do you think they were?
Well, simply, this thing here is a small issue in relation to a larger scale thing on the whole of Ireland, okay?
Do you want to elaborate on that a bit?
Well, basically, they don't want, as you say, the war is over, okay? They don't want citizen Republicans operating in Ireland, in Dublin, and Ireland at all, okay?
Yeah.
Okay, and by crushing it in Dublin, they feel as though they got it as a whole. Okay.
So what about what the Gardaí are suggesting, that this could have been done by anybody, even one of his own people, or even, I suppose, the suggestion that this was local drug dealers maybe who were getting their own back?
Well, I'll be honest with you, I'm very unaware as to who done it, but I can assure you the person would be got. And the Gardaí will not be helping in that department, I'm going to show you. The Gardaí are rubbing their hands.
Were you familiar with Alan Ryan yourself?
I wasn't aware of him, yeah.
You know him? Would you have known him? Are you an acquaintance?
Known, yeah.
So are you telling me, like Malachy, that he was innocent of all charges?
Innocent of what charges?
Well, when I say innocent of all charges, I mean that in a cliche manner. I mean innocent of what he's being accused of by the media.
Innocent of what charges?
Well, as you know, the media, well, not only the media, but the Garda Síochána believed he was involved in racketeering, extorting cash from drug dealers.
I'll tell you about racketeering, okay? First of all, if he was involved in racketeering, okay, it was racketeering for the cause, the struggle, okay?
So he was involved in racketeering.
Okay,
so he was a criminal.
No, not criminality. I'll give you criminality. Criminality is Gardaí taking money off drug dealers and putting it in their back pocket. That's criminality.
Well, is criminality not Alan Ryan taking money off drug dealers and putting it in his back pocket?
Not necessarily, because it's money going towards the cause. I don't see criminality.
So it's okay to take money off drug dealers, and once it's going towards the cause?
Well, the way it is with drugs, you will not be proven in the States and other cities.
But if he's really cleaning up an area, as they did in Dublin back in the 80s, when you had these movements back in the 80s, who ran the drug dealers out of their homes, and I'm sure you all remember those movements that were around in the mid-80s. I can't remember the name of the organisation at the time, but I remember covering it on another radio show.
The Provos,
yeah, and they ran the drug dealers out of the areas. They didn't take money off them. They didn't want money off them. They just wanted them out of the area. But that's not what Alan Ryan done, according to the Garda Síochána, according to the media.
According to the Garda Síochána and according to the Herald and according to the Sunday World.
And what about demanding money from firms? Did he do that? Is that a lie as well?
No, it's not a lie.
Well, then how can you say he's a good guy? I mean, look, let's be serious about this, Paul. If you live by the sword, and you, as somebody said earlier on, you put your hand in the fire, don't expect now to get burned by it.
I'll put it in simple terms, okay? You tell me how many serious drug dealers have been taken out of the city in the past 8 years because of them.
I have no idea.
Exactly. And many have the Gardaí put away.
But is it Alan Ryan's job to do that? That's what you're saying is you're condoning vigilantism.
Yeah, I am, yeah. You're
Yeah.
correct. Yeah, because the guard ain't done the job. The guards run away from any serious problems.
So what are we? What are you doing, Paul? Are you hailing him as a hero?
I hail him as a hero, but I'm saying that he did a lot of good. Okay. And As simple as that, and you can make a mind up of what.
So why do the Garda
Síochána
Síochána, for example, why are they connecting him to murders?
Because most likely that there was involvement there at some stage, yeah.
Yeah. So how can you make this guy out to be a good guy? Why? Well, I mean, yourself and Malachy tonight, okay, because he might have ran one or two drug dealers out of the area, you blow him up to be this wonderful person.
I have no problem in taking a drug dealer out of the area.
Sorry?
I have no problem with taking a drug dealer out of the area.
Okay, well, that's fine. Take a drug dealer out of the area.
Yeah.
But why encourage it by, saying, okay, I tell you what, you can stay as long as you give us a few quid and give us a slice of the action. Is that what he was doing? Give us a slice of the action and you're all right. You go ahead, peddle your drugs to the little kids. Just give us a slice of the action.
I suppose what you're saying is true to an extent.
It's not supposing. It is true.
Yeah.
Whether it's for the cause or whatever it's for, whether it's for the Queen of England, it's irrelevant.
The only truth in that is that the media are saying it and the Garda are saying it. That doesn't make it true.
Well, because you're saying it's not doesn't make it untrue.
No. And that's what I have said all along.
But you guys, both of you guys claim to know him.
Make it true.
All three of you on the air at the moment claim to know him. Darren, of course, is on the other side.
There is an agenda being pursued, as that caller said, against anybody who has anything to do with what's termed dissident republicanism. Now, you mentioned the CPAD there, you couldn't remember the name of it, and how they ran drug dealers out.
This is 1986, yeah.
Well, actually,
was it
we moved
86?
to Mark II, which was in the mid-90s, right? Which was effectively a provo fund used by the provisionals to get a foothold in communities. And they only targeted particular dealers. And we saw subsequently, and people like me argued at the time that that's what was happening, that they weren't targeting drug dealers, that they were only targeting A, people who wouldn't pay them, and B, people who are dealer addicts.
Yeah, but did you hear what I said? Well, hold on. But you listen to what I said to Paul. Paul was saying, okay, they're taking drug dealers out of the area. I'm all for that.
Right,
I'm 100% behind you there, okay? Because I don't want to see some drug dealer turning my kids into drug addicts. But when you're turning around to a drug dealer, as the Garda said Alan Ryan did, and Paul himself is saying there, you turn around to a drug dealer and say, look, no problem, you can stay there, you peddle your drugs, but just make sure I get some of the money out of it.
No,
where's the because the money's for the cause?
Well, you're the one that's telling me that. I would have no interest or support or anything in relation to anything like that, right? Now, my complaints and my opposition in the mid-90s to the CPAD was because it was doing exactly that, right? And what we saw subsequently, which emerged in the Griffin rape trial, was how a major cocaine gang was being run by the officer in command of the provisionals in Dublin. So, and they were allowed to build their drugs empire while they were doing that. Now, I would be totally opposed to somebody taking money off drug dealers in the scenario that you're painting. But I have seen.
But Paul is not.
Right? Well, I'm not speaking about Paul.
I know. But let Paul can speak for himself. Paul, but hold on, Paul. Are you opposed to people taking money from drug dealers?
You have agreed with this point.
Well, I'm not.
You would
really,
have no difficulty in removing.
The thing with drugs is you will not fully wipe out drugs in any city. Okay. So that's, you have to accept that.
Well, we all agree prohibition doesn't work. All right, yeah, I understand.
You manage the situation to your advantage, okay?
But I mean, we have a situation up the north of Ireland for the moment. I'm sure both you're well aware of the Republican Action Against Drugs, or RAD as they're better known. These individuals, what they do is they'll walk around to somebody's home, tell the mother, tell your son to be in a lane at 6 o'clock this evening. We're going to kneecap him. I mean, you've heard the story about what they do and the way they deal with the situation because they believe that the police have lost control.
Well, the police have lost control. It's not that the police have lost control. There is no political will in either.
Yeah, but okay, but some people could condone that, Malachy.
Hold on, let me make the point now before you keep cutting me off. To deal with the drugs problem that we have. Now, the state has consistently refused. We started off in my community with cannabis, moved to heroin in the 80s. Crack cocaine, crystal meth now is a thing that's coming through. And the state still stands back and firstly denies that's a problem, brings in the CAB or creates the CAB when one of theirs was killed, Veronica Guerin, in order to target the assets of some drug dealers and to make them tax compliant. So it became a revenue generating exercise. It's okay to sell heroin to my kids or cocaine to them, as long as you pay your taxes. That's the logic of what this state says. Now, if the state is not prepared to protect communities and protect my children and your children, well, then somebody else will have to do it.
Okay, well, so somebody just texts in and says, is it illegal to benefit from the sale of drugs? If you benefit, you're an accessory to a criminal act. Yes, that's right. Somebody says, Niall, he got a cut from it. There's bigger men on the run giving Alan his orders, or, well, they were giving his orders. Somebody says, they all get a cut. Stop making out that he pocketed it all. Sorry, Paul, you want to make a point just before you finish
I
up?
want to make a point there. I think you're being very, very heavy on this man. From your view, okay, you have this opinion of this man through the papers, the Sunday World, the Evening Herald, and other bullshit, okay?
Mm-hmm. But it's not all bullshit. It's not, hold on, Paul. By your own admission, it's not all bullshit.
Well, Hosen, you're going on about what car he has and doing this car and that car.
Well, actually, that was actually Darren that was telling us. Darren was telling us about his cars. Well, the point. No, hold on. Well, hold on, Paul. Darren made a relevant point about in relation to the cars. Where is the money coming from? Because people were denying he wasn't taking money from drug dealers.
Irrelevant where he got his money.
Sorry, Darren, are you still there?
Got the money saved up over years.
Sorry, Darren, are you still there?
Yeah, I'm still here.
Okay.
Sorry, Paul, if I could just point out to you there, sorry, Paul, I didn't mean to be arguing with you, Paul. I'm not here to have an argument with anybody yet. I mean, I'm just giving my opinion. And I'd just like to say, like, these lads are going around, just as he says there at the cab went around and he took these drug dealers' money. These cab didn't go around and murder these drug dealers. Who gives the right
what do you want me to do? There's no negotiating with this. There's no negotiating with these kind of people. Do you understand that?
Oh, I understand.
No negotiating.
I understand.
The only negotiating they understand is the bullet in the fucking head. Simple as that.
No. That's breaking the law. Like, that's a crime. Like,
breaking the fucking... You know what breaking the law is?
Oh, I understand that.
Do you understand what sort of state we're living in this?
Come here.
So Paul, is it every man for himself now? Is that the way it's gone?
No, it's not every man for himself, but we need some sort of leading law and order. And
so what, you put a bullet in somebody's head? But hold on, we have a Garda Síochána, we have a force there, okay, that's obviously subject to what people's opinion of the force happen to be. But in saying that, you were advocating then, if we find somebody out stealing drugs, you can put a bullet in his head?
Absolutely. Simple as that.
And you think that's fine? So what if we all have that attitude? Don't get me wrong, I've no time for drug dealers. I think they're scum of the earth. But in saying that, if we all took that attitude, what sort of society would we have? We'd have a lawless society.
Sorry, Niall, we could just point out there as well, as Maliki said about the group Concerned Pardons Against Drugs, like that group there back then in the 80s, they didn't go around murdering people. They ran the drug dealers out of the area.
What are you on about the fucking 80s for? This is 2012. You wake up.
Oh, exactly.
I was trying to say another point here. The Evening Herald and the Sunday World have a serious...
You must be one of these...
Evening Herald and the Sunday World have a lot of responsibility for this.
You're a fucking criminals.
Criminals? What about your local Gardaí?
Sorry?
What about the local Gardaí?
Oh, well, that's our government, isn't it?
It's that fucking same. They're all criminals. Why not have being piece of the cake?
So you think that's all right, so?
Well, it is. It is all right.
But you get off the radio, you fucking idiot.
Why?
Come on,
what's the difference?
Hop on there.
What's the difference? Oh, straight. What is the difference?
What is the difference?
Yeah,
that's our law. That's our law. Our law is there to protect us.
It's our law. It's our law. The laws for the fucking the wealth class and the laws for the working class are different. Do you understand?
No, the laws for everybody, Paul.
Oh, okay. The laws.
So just because there might be some corrupt Garda Síochána, and there's no doubt about it because we've seen it in the past. That still doesn't give you the right to turn around and say, oh, well, they're corrupt. If somebody's taking money from the criminals, sure, why won't we do it as well? And we'll put it into the real IRA. It's for the cause. It's for the cause.
Yeah. I don't see the problem there.
But it's a criminal activity. You come on and you tell me that he wasn't a criminal or he wasn't involved in any of these things that according to the newspapers, and Maliki said that we're making it all up.
I don't see it as criminality.
You don't see it as criminality when somebody's extorting money from drug dealers, when somebody's extorting... And what about extorting money from businesses and firms? You don't see that as criminality?
I'm perfectly fine with that as well.
Sorry?
I'm fine with it.
You're perfectly fine with that?
Yeah, absolutely.
You think running protection rackets is perfectly okay? You walk around to a business and you say, listen lads, we can make sure that you don't get broken into. We can make sure you don't get done by the local scumbags if you give us a few quid.
I can tell you how straight and out. There's parties in Dublin at the moment doing the same thing.
But that doesn't make it right.
It doesn't make it right, no. Correct.
Yeah, you'd be the first one. You're the one who brought that up, so you're the first one to give out about it. So why does that make it right?
If it's bringing in money, okay, for the cause, I've no problem with it. Within reason.
Can we not just let this go? This for the cause. When the ceasefire went, can we not just let it go? No.
No, you can't.
You can't just move on.
If you say this money is for the cause, so if you have to buy these expensive cars and their expensive motorbikes that they're driving around in for the cause,
what are you going to do? You know, people have jobs. Do you understand that? And save for it. Like, okay, all right. People go down for second parent you, how many holidays you had each year, do they? Or what car you're driving?
Sorry, what income gives you the right to go and buy BMWs? They're going around in Lexus.
You haven't got a fucking clue of some of the ex-person's fucking financial situation. How much they had saved, how much they had coming in.
Where did Alan Ryan get this money? Alan Ryan had been in prison.
Listen to me. You don't know how much this person had saved, put boy. Right?
Oh, so where could
he give you a right to say, who's he to drive a car?
Well, then where did the money come from, Paul?
Who knows where it came from? Saved. What were years of working?
Years of working.
Where did he work in Port Leeds prison?
What car do you drive?
So what car do I drive?
Yeah. No car you drive, okay?
I drive a F0.
You got your car because you worked hard for it and you saved it, okay?
I didn't do it.
He got his car because you worked hard and saved it. What's the difference?
I work hard and extorting people out of money.
No, he didn't extort people out of money.
But you come on the radio tonight, Paul. You're making Alan Ryan out to be some sort of hero, as I believe Maliki is.
No, listen to me. Don't be putting words in there, okay?
No, but you're saying, hold on, you're saying it's a good thing, and you're also telling me that it's okay if you find a drug dealer to put a bullet in his head. It's okay to extort money from businesses.
I'm saying hero and a good person. I did not mention the word hero. That's your words, okay? The man was a good person. Okay?
So he's not the person that the media and the Gardaí say. As the Garda said, he was a very dangerous man and he won't be missed.
And that's all media spin.
That's not media spin. That's a quotation from the Garda Síochána today.
It's been going on years. Do you understand that? Yep. That's a power to believe in the media.
No, hold on for a second. Hold on. The media only quote what the Guards said today. That's what they said. He's a very dangerous man and he won't be missed.
And the Gardaí seen him as a threat. Okay, yeah, simple as that. And what's going to happen now is the criminals fucking probably have a free run, and they probably think they have a free run again.
If the Gardaí genuinely believed this individual, Alan Ryan, was running drug dealers out of the area, do you think they'd be going on about him the way they did? No, they'd be probably quite happy that he's helping to do the job for them. But in saying that, that's not what he was doing. He was taking a slice of the action.
How he's doing both?
Yeah, for the cause, as you keep telling me.
Mm-hmm.
He was extorting money from innocent people. People were terrorised because of him. Do you think that's acceptable?
I do think it's acceptable, yeah.
Why do you believe that's... Explain to me, Paul, for 1 minute, if I had a business in the Coolock area, for example, right?
Yeah.
And this guy comes and knocking on my door with his members and his gang or whoever else happened to be with him and said, I want X amount of money off you and we'll make sure nothing happens to your business. And if anything does happen, we'll look after it. Don't you worry.
Yeah.
You have an obligation to pay them then. It's not a case of turning around and saying, no, lads, I'm not really interested. And you know that as well as I do, Paul. It's not a case of saying no.
Yeah.
You think that's acceptable behaviour, do you?
I do, yeah.
In a modern society?
Well,
what sort of thinking is that? But then you're thinking on the same line as him. Which gang are you with?
I do think it's acceptable, yeah.
Are you with the real IRA?
No.
Are you part of the same gang?
No.
Well, then why do you believe it's acceptable?
I do think it's acceptable. There's no problem at all from taking from wealthy people. Simple as that.
Okay, hold on a second. You can call us on 1850 410 494. That's 1850 410 494. Or text us here at Classic Hits 4FM at 53544. I got to go to... Just wait there, lads. Frankie, you're in Limerick. You're live in Classic Hits 4FM. Good evening to you.
Hello?
Yeah, go ahead, Frankie.
How you going? I was just listening there a while ago, and people defending that the criminals inside in Limerick that were involved in crime.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's disgusting.
Well, Paul is defending him.
Well, like, I personally know some fella that was murdered inside Limerick, Sheen Gagan.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's like...
He was an innocent man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what about the families of the murdered victims? And hearing these people coming on defending murderers, it's sickening.
But let's be clear, Alan Ryan was never convicted of murder, although he was linked to a few murders and arrested, or not arrested, he was questioned in relation to murder. But he was never convicted of murder. I'm sure he was well aware of what was going on, yes.
I understand that, yeah. I understand the people that haven't been convicted, but the people that have been convicted, and there's people in prison that everybody knows kind of they were the people behind it, and there's people like the prisoners' rights group, everything, they come out. But I think that the judicial system is very lax in the sentences they can give. Like murder, you'll be out in 5-10 years for murder. It's crazy.
Paul, do you want to respond to that? What about the victims, for example, and I mentioned extortion a few minutes ago, which in some cases can be terrifying for people. Those people that are being extorted have families as well.
I understand that, and unfortunately, the families don't need to come into it. At the end of the day, the bottom line is money. There's no room for sentiment.
I don't believe what you're saying, Paul. I don't believe that you would be so brash to actually believe that. Do you have family, Paul?
No.
You don't have family?
No.
Well, then you don't understand then, do you?
I do understand, yeah.
How is it fair to have somebody, I mean, I come back to this again, knocking on your door, extorting money from you when you've got family and you're worried about your business and you're worried about your finances and you're worried about the safety of your own family. Just because they're getting money off you for the cause.
It's as simple as this. They wouldn't really approach you if they hadn't got wealth. Okay, and it's there. It's affordable to them. It's affordable to them.
So that's okay then.
It makes it okay.
So if somebody's successful,
murder is okay if it's worth a couple of quid.
Well, no, there's not just a case of murder. I don't know, not one person who's been murdered for not paying up money. Drug dealers been murdered.
I know people have been beaten up for not paying the money.
I don't.
How can you condone violence like that?
How can we condone violence? There's a reason for it. There's a reason behind it.
Oh. If you were a decent member of society, how can you condone violence like that?
I'm quite happy with it.
Well, you don't belong here. In fairness, you belong in some place that doesn't have a society. Because over here, I can't believe that. I actually can't believe somebody would be happy with the way with
a lawless society.
You're referring to the mother of
No, I'm not referring to.
Hold on for a second. In fairness, he's a personal friend of Shane Gangland who was shot by accident, innocently shot. So in other words, he was a victim of everything you're talking about, Paul.
That's completely different.
It's not completely different.
It is.
No, he was a victim. He was a victim. There's innocent victims get involved in this. Innocent victim get in the way of all this.
He was killed by a drug dealer. Okay, by mistake.
Yep.
Okay, big difference. Okay.
But what I'm saying is, people get killed.
People get killed. That's the nature of the world.
Alan Ryan's parents, for example, have lost a son tonight.
Yes.
Because of what happened. Because of what happened to him today.
Yeah.
So how can you condone all this kind of carry on when you see that people, even the hardest criminals in the world, do have mothers, fathers, brothers, sisters, and friends?
Mm-hmm. And it's extremely sad. It's very, very sad. That's it.
I think it's sad for them. I don't think it's sad for the individuals involved.
But no, it's very, very sad. It's very sad that this person...
What if it happened to someone that belonged to you? What would you say then? What if your brother, your sister, your mother, your father was shot in the morning by accident, by purpose to get at you, by anything really? What happens then? What would you say? Would you change your view then? Oh well, collateral damage. Would you say that shit then? I don't think you would.
You see, you keep on referring to the murder of Shane Gagan, which is completely different.
No. If it reflected on you, what would you say? Would you say, collateral damage? Would you say shit like that? No, I don't think you would.
Well, you don't get shot for no reason. Put it that way.
You don't get shot for no reason.
You don't get shot for
People have been shot for no reason.
People have been shot for no reason. It happens every day. Be it anywhere else.
Maybe certainly not every day, but it does happen.
Excuse me, but it might do, yeah.
But people get hurt for no reason as well, Paul. What would you do if one of these guys, turns on you tomorrow? I don't know what you're involved in. I personally don't care. But what would you do if one of these guys turns on you?
I do this.
And then you become the victim then?
I wouldn't put myself in that position.
What if it happened to someone that you loved? What would you do then?
The person obviously made a mistake then to get involved in that situation. The person made a mistake to get involved in that situation.
Have you ever been involved in protection yourself, Paul?
No.
Honestly?
No.
Well, I didn't expect you to admit it anyway. All right, but actually, hold on for a second. And there's a lot of people, by the way, texting in. I want to make this abundantly clear. A lot of people coming on the air defending Alan Ryan and his character. And as you know already, hold on for a second, Paul. As you know already, I did mention at the start of the show that the media and the Garda Síochána have told us all exactly what he was involved in. And don't be behind the door about it. He was involved in extorting cash from drug dealers and businesses across the city and demanding protection money. He was also a member of the real IRA. So we all know exactly what he was, and he was a criminal. That's the end of it. He's a criminal. But sadly, they won't go on the air. And Paul, you know the reason why they won't go on the air.
Why?
Because they're afraid.
I don't believe they're afraid.
Do you not think so? Afraid of what might happen to them. Their voices might be recognised. What might actually happen to them. Do you understand that?
No, I don't.
Well, I mean, Paul, you're the man on the radio who's been telling me for the last 10 minutes that if somebody's dealing drugs, bullet in the head.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with extorting money from businessmen, innocent businessmen.
Mm-hmm.
So why do you think they'd be afraid to come on the air? In case they're recognised? In case they're dealt with in the same manner? Call us at 1850 410 494. Stay there if you can, Paul. I think it's Brian, is it? I have to go to Brian. You're line one. You're live in Classic Hits 4FM. Good evening to you.
How's it going?
How you doing, Brian? What do you want to say?
First things first, he was a great person, right? He cleaned up the area where he's from. I'm actually originally from there. I don't live there anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
When you say cleaned up the area, give me a bit of detail on how you believe he cleaned up the area.
Someone on there saying that he extorted money off drug dealers and patted them on the back and let them continue on. That isn't the case.
Well, that's what Paul said.
No, he ran them all out of the area. They're all gone, right?
So Paul is lying to me now, is he?
He's not lying. He probably just has his information wrong. I'm not saying he's lying. He was right about a lot of things, The next thing is...
so you're telling me he didn't extort money from drug dealers at all?
Well, I'm not saying that.
Then he did. So is that what you're saying, Brian?
Well, I'm not
make up your mind.
No.
Well, Brian, you're going to big him up to be a great guy. So let's give us the truth.
He cleaned up the area more than waiting for the Garda to do it, which is never going to happen, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, since the 1994 ceasefire, it's been the greatest retribution or crusade that the Republican movement have ever done for the 26 counties.
And why are they doing that? Why do you believe the Republican movement are doing that? It's not for the. But hold on a second. It's not for the good of society and good of themselves. It's for money, isn't it?
Now hold on a minute. You had some other muppet there on the air, and he was talking about the cab. He was talking about a cab coming along and taking money off. I was really fuming at that point because since the 1996 forming of cab, it's the biggest joke ever. They come along and they take X amount of money off you, and then they just pat you on the back and let you carry on what you're doing. What a load of bollocks that is, you know what I mean? You don't agree,
Well, I agree. I agree with. Hold on, I agree with so much. I can't understand how we have a society where it's all right to tax criminals, but however.
Yeah.
All right, but it doesn't say. So what you're saying is because the state takes money off people, it's okay for criminals to take money off people.
I never said that. No.
Okay. Well, what's the point you're making then?
Like the
how can you, Brian? How can you big up a man who's been involved in criminal activity? And by Paul's admission as well, and what Paul has told us, and what the Garda have said, and what the media have reported over the years, has been taking money off innocent businessmen. How can you big him up?
I don't have any evidence of that, and neither do you, right? You're just going.
But how do you big him up?
Well,
so you can't assume people are making it up.
Just going by Paul Williams.
Why do you all bring Paul Williams into it?
Yeah, because you're going by what
it's not just Paul Williams. There's other crime correspondents as well.
Yeah, well, that's right. Yeah,
are they all lying? Are the Garda lying?
There's no evidence of that. You know what I mean?
Oh, so the Garda Síochána lying too?
Yeah, well, there's no evidence of that. I'm just saying he cleaned up the area, and not only the area where he's from, but the whole of Dublin were in fear of him because. Listen till I tell you, it's not only him. There's many people behind him too, and I wouldn't like to be in the shoes of the ones that done it. Let me tell you.
The ones who done which?
The ones who plugged him today.
So you don't think they're going to sleep tonight?
No, they won't. And they may be all out tipping their champagne glasses tonight, but I tell you they'll be coming back there. Let me tell you.
And how do you know all this?
Well, I won't say any more, but I'm looking forward to it.
But the Garda Síochána seem to be fairly confident that they probably know who it is as well.
Fuck the Garda Síochána, what they say, you know what I mean? They're like, if you were sitting around waiting for them to clean up the streets now, you'd be left waiting.
So are you a good friend of Alan's?
I knew Alan very well, yeah.
So who's going to go out? Who's going to deal with these individuals? Who's going to deal with these individuals that took Alan out today?
I'm not going to say any more. That's all I'm going to say.
Do you see there's no end to this, don't you? But Brian.
Well,
I mean, you know, it's he gets him, then who's going to get him, and then who's going to get him, and there's just no end to it.
Yeah.
I mean, and if you're involved in that, Brian, I mean, you really can see. Have you got family, by the way?
Yeah.
Do you not worry for your family?
No.
Why?
Why should I? Why would I?
I mean, if you were involved, now I don't know what you're involved in, Brian, or if you are involved in anything, but surely if something like that came to bite you, surely you'd be worried about your own family.
No.
But you heard Paul even earlier on saying...
It's irrelevant about what I worry about. I'm just making the point, you know what I mean?
So do you agree with extortion?
Well, on the ones
protection rackets.
On the ones you are making accusations that they extorted on, I've no, I've no sympathy for. You know what I mean?
So what about some guy who happens to be a successful businessman, as I asked Paul earlier on? Is it all right for
there's
some...
no evidence of that, you know what I mean?
But I'm not asking that. I'm asking you, is it all right for a gang to come knocking on someone's door who's a successful businessman and say, you know, give us a few quid and we look after your business for you?
Yeah.
Is that okay for the cause?
Well, I can't comment on that, you know what I mean?
I'm asking you a simple question. Is it okay?
No.
It's not okay.
Well, I have no evidence. Really
I'm not even asking if there's no evidence. It's a hypothetical question. Just answer the question. Is it okay to do it? Do you think it's okay to do that?
It's okay. It's okay to extort money out of all the little knackers that supposedly that you're saying happens. You know what I mean?
I'm not talking about all the little knackers, as you call them.
Well,
I'm talking about extorting money from innocent businessmen.
Well, I've no evidence of that.
I'm not asking you if you've evidence. You're missing the whole point of the question.
I know what your point is.
Yeah.
You know?
Is it okay to do it? Surely you can make a moral decision.
Maybe not.
It's not okay.
No.
Because they're innocent people getting caught up in crime.
Maybe so, yeah.
Yeah. But that's what was going on.
Yeah, yeah.
So you think that's okay, Brian? That was going on. How can you big him up then?
Yeah, well, he done great for the area, you know.
Wait there for a second, both of you can. Ross, you're in Dublin, you're live on Classic Hits 4FM. Good evening to you.
How you doing?
How you doing, Ross? Go ahead.
Not too bad. Listen, to be honest with you, you know, I mean, these guys are hiding behind the Irish flag as far as I'm concerned.
Who, Paul
you know
and Brian?
I mean? They're hiding behind the Irish flag and they're extorting money. They're going into Irish citizens, taking money from them. I mean, that other guy, Darren, this guy, Alan Ryan, I didn't know him. But to be honest with you, that guy, Darren, told the story. And your man, Alan Ryan, hit one of his mates a dig in the head for dropping a point. Now, that's an Irish lad out having a point. Where's republicanism in that? I don't see it. Do you know what I mean?
What do you think of what Paul and Brian are saying is that...
behind the Irish flag, republicanism, you know, and behaving as gangsters, criminals. Why not just be honest about it? At least the drug dealers are honest about it. Now, I know somebody very close to me who died from drugs, died from heroin. Very close to me. And I've no time for it. But to be honest with you, people go out and they decide to take drugs as well. As the monk pointed out in one of his interviews. He pointed out that people take drugs and there's always going to be drug dealers. And the truth of the matter is, that's the truth of it. And the truth of the matter is, these people are going around taking money from them and lining their own pockets. Why not just be honest about it and say it out straight?
Well, according to Paul, and I don't know what Brian's feeling on it is that they're doing it for the cause.
Well, what cause? What about hitting that guy in the pub who drops a point, terrorised?
Paul, do you want to answer that?
You got a smack in the jaw. You know, I mean, where's the
Republicanism? I don't know how true that story is.
In the IRA. I won't lie about it.
I don't know how true that story is. You know,
well, I have to believe that chap. Now, I will be honest with you. I know somebody genuine when they speak, and that chap to me, Darren, was genuine.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, this guy seemed to be putting a lot of fear into people. You know.
Mm. Well, the only you have that hello.
Yeah, go ahead, Paul.
You have that view on that because of the papers.
Listen,
the papers again
I'll be 100% honest with you, right? Yeah. I haven't bought a paper in 4 years. You know why?
How do you know them?
You know why? You know why I haven't bought a paper? Because I don't believe in it. I don't believe I don't believe in it overall. Some of the stories are good, but most of it I don't believe in. I don't believe how it poisons society. I know that's a strong word, but it fucking does poison society. And it poisons young people, right, in different ways. I haven't bought a paper in 5 years.
Okay, so how do you know all this stuff?
Really watch the news. Huh?
Right, go ahead, yeah.
That's what I'm saying. I don't buy the papers because I don't believe in the bullshit. I seen a fucking headline in the paper today. A child 8 died.
Okay, do me a favour, just don't discuss that on the air, that particular case, because it's not finished. All right, okay.
That's fair enough. I mean, but like, this is what the papers are about to me. I don't buy the papers.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I just have that's my view on it. You know, what's the
so
point?
you believe Paul is Paul is hiding behind the Irish flag. Paul, you're hiding behind the Irish flag, hiding behind the cause.
How is it acceptable to go into an Irish citizen and take money off him? Do it, and be genuine about it, be a criminal about it, but don't hide behind Irishness for it. That fucking gets to me, you know. I'll be honest with you. I mean,
okay, well, I'm reading down one of the tweets here from Michael Kenrick, and he says, Niall, same old Provo propaganda as it was 30 years ago. Tell those muppets who we are at peace now. Can they not get over it?
Absolutely, that's the truth of it. I've more time to speak to a British person than I would for one of those people. That's being honest with you. And I am Republican.
But how can you be claiming to do things to the cause? As Noel, or should I say, Ross has just said, you know, if you're involved in criminal activity, or if Alan Ryan was involved in criminal activity, which we can only assume he was from what the Garda tell us, if he's involved in criminal activities, why not just say it? Come out and say it. Yeah, okay, I'm a criminal. Why hide behind the flag?
What are you fucking hiding for? Don't hide about it. Yeah, and another guy here asked some questions. Oh, did he do this? Did he do that? They're big enough because they have respect for him, because I believe he was successful at what he was doing and he was making money at what he was doing. And that's the reason why they have respect for him. Or maybe they like him as well. I don't know. But, you know, I mean, don't hide behind the flag. You know what I mean? Well, what's the point in it? What's the point in it? Do you think the Irish people are fucking idiots? They don't know what's going on?
Well, sorry, what's your first name again?
His name is Ross.
Ross, as a whole, Irish society is like a big flock of sheep.
Okay? But people
they are fucking stupid, you know. As a whole,
so Irish society are stupid as a whole.
No.
They're probably listening to you, Paul, saying you're the one who's stupid because of the way you're carrying on.
Not necessarily.
But you're the one who's telling us that the criminal activity is acceptable. Because you see what the banks do and what everybody else is doing, or what the government or the Garda Síochána, one or two corrupt guards might be doing, you're telling us because of all that, you believe criminal activity is acceptable. And you won't just come out and say it's criminal. You don't call it criminal activity. What you do is you call it making money for the cause.
Absolutely.
It's fucking bullshit. You know what I mean? Like, let's be honest. Like, it really is, you know? Like, at least be honest about it. You know what I mean? Like, as I said, the drug dealers...
Be honest and say it's criminality.
It is criminal. At least the drug dealers are honest about what they're doing. People go out, as the Munn said, and I do have to agree with him in a certain way. He said people take drugs. Nowadays especially, we all know what happens. Back in the day, nobody knew what heroin would do. There was no mobile phones, no internet. Everybody fucking knows now. I've no respect for people who take heroin. Some people take a little bit of drugs now and then. Fair enough. And then they knock it on the head. Fair enough. You know what I mean? But people do choose to do these things, and they're fucking idiots as far as I'm concerned. Drug dealers are always going to be there. You know it, I know it, we all know it.
Yeah.
You know, and if you want to go and start taking money from them, you know, without a doubt, like, I mean, that man got a few bullets put into him today, I believe, and he went up and hit him close range as well. You know, it's a dangerous game without a shadow of a doubt. But, you know, if you want to play that game, play it.
All right, okay, hold on for a second. I want to go to Noel. I'm going to take a break after Noel if I can. Noel, you're in Galway. You're live on Classic Hits 4FM. You want to talk to Paul because you had some close business friends who were extorted. Or who were...
No, it was actually me.
Oh, it was yourself, was it?
Oh, absolutely. I had a business. Now, it isn't that current. It was in the late 90s.
Mm-hmm.
But I opened up a business, and within the first week, I had a gang of blokes turned up. There was about 3 of them, heavy-set men. Handed me 40 copies of Unpublicta and said, sell those to your customers. And I said, no, that's not going to happen, lads, you know. All right, just put them on the counter then. All we want is 100 a week. We'll come back every Friday. And that was that. A couple of days after that, I had another couple of guys turned up saying, don't pay any attention to them, we're somebody else. A couple of days after that, this is an interesting one, 12 Gardaí came in after midnight, and they had food and drink. And at some point I was saying, listen lads, people have got to go home here, and somebody's looking after the bill.
Yep.
And they got very, very stroppy about it and said, listen, do you know who lets you open after midnight? It's us. So, it was an introduction into running a business.
What do you think of what Paul said, that it's acceptable? It's an acceptable part of society.
Of course it's not. Of course it's not. I kind of did deals with everybody.
So did you end up having to pay these guys €100 a week?
I did deal. No, listen, I didn't agree with what they were looking for, but I did deals with all of them.
Why would you do deals with anybody?
Sure, Jesus. Any one of them could have finished my business in a blink of an eye.
So it was out of fear?
Of course. And it went on and it went on, and I did it for 3 years. I just said, oh, Jesus, it's too stressful. I'm stopping it. So I shut it up and I walked away.
There's what extortion does, Paul. Puts a man out of business.
That was in the late 90s. What he doesn't realise is everybody else is extorting me too. And it was just way too stressful.
Paul, do you not understand what you're doing to businesses? Or not you. But sorry, he's gone actually. He's at the hanging up.
Your electricity. And then you've got these Egypts turning up. I also had travellers as well, by the way. They were doing me head in as well. And it was just...
And so everybody was just knocking at your door trying to extort money from you?
Everybody. It's like the minute you open a business, idiots like him think, oh, rich guy, let's have a bit. But you're not rich. You're actually just earning possibly less than a normal wage. But you're just trying to do something for yourself. And eventually you get worn down by the lot of them. And I walked away.
All right, just some of the text coming in. That's a terrible story, Noel. Absolutely awful. I'm quite shocked tonight, actually. And I think it's quite sad that the only people that will come on the air are people who will defend Alan Ryan, who was killed today. The people who don't want to defend him and want to have a go at him, with the exception of one or two, for example, Ross and everybody else who believes they don't have any sympathy for him whatsoever. You get involved in crime, you die in crime. That's the way it is. Most people are afraid to actually come on the air, which just shows to show you the influence these kind of individuals have over society and the fear they put into people when we talk about the stories. And of course the Garda Síochána have confirmed that the 22-year-old was notorious for racketeering, extorting cash from drug dealers, businessmen across the city, and demanding protection money from firms. And as I said, the Garda said today he was very dangerous and he won't be missed. And they said anyone could have done it, even one of his own. Some of the text coming in. Mike, tell Niall to tell that idiot Paul to F off the air. He sounds like a complete spoof doctor. Somebody else says, hi Niall, there are some scumbags in Dublin. Get me out of here. There's actually not just scumbags in Dublin. They're everywhere, all over the city. We say, what about the kids? What about us? Somebody else says in a text here. And somebody says, Niall, who cares? Let them all kill each other. You're right. They are all scum. That comes in from Sue. Somebody else says, please give the Garda Síochána arms. In other words, load up the guards to deal with them. Another person said there was no evidence against Al Capone either, but everyone knew what he did. And that's Leo. Unfortunately, I can't come on the phone. I'm so sorry. Well, Leo, I'm delighted you sent in the text anyway. Somebody said, let me see, I got, in Twitter here, Austin says, I got very interested when I heard Alan Ryan was involved in racketeering. Somebody else says, I'm absolutely sick listening to this. It's appalling to listen to those men justifying criminality. And our Twitter says, Niall, you need to rein that fella in. He's using the word Republican very loosely. Republican doesn't mean murder. Lots and lots more tweets coming in. If you want to tweet us, by the way, you can. It's at Niall Boylan 4FM. At Niall Boylan 4FM.
This is Niall Boylan at Night.
On Classic Hits 4FM.
I want to go back to something, as you know earlier on, for the first 2 hours of the show tonight. We were actually talking about the fact that Alan Ryan was murdered today in cold blood in Coolock. We also talked about the fact that some other Gangland members had been killed in the past. And the question we simply asked you was, had you any sympathy? And what happened was, over the course of 2 hours, we had supporters of Alan Ryan coming on and people who didn't support him, who had no sympathy, afraid to come on the air, with the exception of Darren and 1 or 2 other people. Malachy was on at the time, and I remember Paul came on as well, and made some very wide-sweeping statements in relation to the media. And they said the media, including people like Paul Williams, put a spin on this to make these characters out to be some sort of, I suppose, criminals, which in fact they believe they're actually not. They were doing good. And in relation to Alan Ryan, the suggestion was that this man was doing the world of good by ridding the world of drug dealers. And the fact that he extorted money for them didn't really enter into it. So tonight, just to hear more on that story and just to continue on with it, we have Paul Williams, the crime journalist and author. Good evening to you, Paul.
Good evening, Niall.
Paul, earlier on we had people on almost bigging this guy up, making him out to be a hero, basically saying you and others like you, including me and everybody else, we're the bad boys, we're the ones putting the bad spin on this, including the Garda Síochána, and that this guy was a hero.
It's the age-old defence of just shooting the messenger. Mm-hmm. That's what it is.
Okay, give us a bit of background from what you believe on Alan Ryan.
Alan Ryan was a member of the real IRA. He was a thug, he was a parasite. He was extorting money from drug dealers. He was running with drug dealers. It is the belief of the police investigating the murder of Mick Kelly, for example, who was shot dead in September 2011, another psychopath himself, a major drug dealer. The Mick Kelly had actually hired Alan Ryan to murder another drug dealer called Sean Winters in September 2010.
And he was they were questioning that as himself and his brother.
Yes, that's right, at the time. And the reason Mick Kelly was shot was because he hadn't paid up for that favour. Everywhere Alan Ryan went, he brought menace and intimidation. And that's a fact. And I do acknowledge that he has friends and loved ones, like Eamon Dunn was a notorious psychopath. Far more, I would say, not just on his gun belt than Alan Ryan even. He was loved by his so-called pals and his fellow gangsters and his family. Marlo Hyland the same. All these guys and their friends would come on radio stations late at night and defend them as well. What we do as journalists, I don't go. Somebody tried to accuse me in another station there tonight that it was my fault. A lot of these guys were being killed. I never killed anyone in my life. I didn't cause anyone to be killed. These guys get killed because they kill themselves and they are involved. They live by the gun and they die by it. That's it. And the same way Eamon Dunn, Marlo Hyland and so many other thugs in this town in recent years, Alan Ryan had it coming, and that's a fact, and it's a harsh reality of the kind of life he led.
What was being made out earlier on by one particular individual was that the media, including myself and everybody else, is that we sensationalise and glamorise criminality.
Well, I've been accused of that before, right, and I'm well used to that after 25 years in this game. Let me tell you that you cannot, as I said before, you cannot hyperbolise or exaggerate the kind of things these guys get up to. I've written several books about them. And when you actually sit down and you write the story as it happened, based on the reliable information from all the different protagonists, you couldn't make it up. Some of it does sound like it comes from dramas or TV series or whatever. But that's the way. You cannot exaggerate this. Look at Martin Cahill, the general. Mm-hmm. Everybody around Martin Cahill reckoned it was all over exaggerated and hyperbolising. It was built up by the media. He built up himself. He carried out some of the biggest robberies in the history of the state. He carried out a number of atrocities against people on both sides of the fence, including blowing up the state forensic scientist. You know, these were the things these guys do. And the other
he was made out to be an ordinary, decent criminal, wasn't he? As they used to suggest, an ordinary, decent criminal.
I don't think there's any such thing as an ordinary, decent criminal now. I think all criminals, whether they're real IRA, INLA, or organised crime.
What about people who are saying that, for example, if you take RAD up in the north of Ireland, the RAAD, they will take people out, kneecap them, if they're dealing in drugs in the area. And the reason we had them on the show before, the reason they said is because the police have lost control of the situation. These individuals down here believe the Garda Síochána don't have any control over the situation when it comes to drug dealers in the area, and that people like Alan Ryan, for example, were doing the world of good because they were getting drug dealers out of the area, apart from the fact that they were taking their money as well.
But there has been no shortage of drugs on the streets. There has been no change in the whole dynamic of the drug trade in Ireland, except the fact that people have changed their buying habits and what they can afford to buy and get stoned on. Whether they're mostly buying marijuana now, which is grown in grow houses around the country and is highly toxic stuff. they're buying that more often now than they were buying cocaine a few years ago, because now because it's just a different kind of drug they've moved to, because it's what they can afford.
So these individuals, these drug dealers, were basically funding Alan Ryan's lifestyle, and not only that, but funding the real IRA.
Absolutely, and they were all in bed together. Look, I was explaining earlier on tonight. 2 weeks ago, I was contacted by a man who is involved with this whole ongoing feud between Alan Ryan and two particular gentlemen, two criminals. And he told me that he believed absolutely that Alan Ryan will be killed within the next few weeks. Now, Alan Ryan is a hard man. He knew about all of this, and he would be just as capable himself of killing them. And also, this man said, if he isn't killed, he's going to kill this named individual. And the named individual is a man who has spent a lot of time recently in Spain. He's a former associate of Mick Kelly, the panda, who was shot dead in 2011. He has sworn to avenge his friend. He was being squeezed. He's never been convicted. He's a major, major drug dealer. They call him Mr. Big in some newspapers. He has never been touched because he hasn't been caught, because he's very clever and he runs a very tight ship around himself. He's no better than, by the way, any Alan Ryan or anybody else. He, about just over 4 weeks ago, called his associates over to Spain to discuss with them what they were going to do about Alan Ryan and his gang. He arrived back just over 2 weeks ago with the intent, apparently, of killing Alan Ryan. In the meantime, Alan Ryan called to this guy's home, his family home, and threatened his parents and told them we've got it. At the same time, also, there is a Finglas-based INLA member, a so-called INLA member, a guy who ran with Eamon Dunn and Marlow Highland and all these guys. He was shot over a year ago by two junkies who were ordered to shoot him by, apparently, Alan Ryan. He recently, and this has been confirmed by a number of very reliable sources, that they recently, some time ago, went to the north where they had a meeting. On one side was Alan Ryan, the other side was this Finglas INLA man. They were told to kiss and make up. The Finglas INLA man said he would, but like all these guys, his word lasts for about 5 seconds, and he decided, well, I'm going to get this guy because I'm just going to get my revenge. He shot me. Now, a cache of his firearms were seized by the guards some time ago. After that, he was in direct contact with Mr. Big, looking for specifically grenades and short arms, 9mm pistols, to get back at your man. Now, there's two groups of people who are already in the frame, and the one thing that Alan Ryan's friends are right about, yes, the firm belief that he was shot dead by drug dealers, but was he shot for some great romantic notion and cause? No. It's just criminals shooting each other.
Okay, well, hold on for a second, Paul, if you can. The number again is 1-850-410-494. That's 1850-410-494. You can text us at 53544, just to continue on what we were talking about earlier on. Brian, you're in Dublin, you're live in Classic Hits 4FM. You knew Alan Ryan.
How are you doing?
And you're telling me that Paul Williams is a liar.
My biggest annoyance with Paul Williams is, over the length of time that he is writing for the Sunday World, he has never, ever written about corrupt Garda. Never. Why is that?
But does that make it right?
Well, make what right?
And the fact that what we're talking about tonight is obviously Alan Ryan. So does that make Alan Ryan any better, that Paul Williams has never written about corruption in the Garda Síochána?
That's not what I'm talking about.
I have.
I'm asking him a question.
I have done, yes.
A direct question that requires a direct answer.
I have done, yes.
And what does he have to say about that?
I have done, yes. I have exposed corrupt cops. The guy who was taking the money from the drug dealers at the time Veronica Guerin was murdered, it was me who turned him over and exposed him in the public domain.
Well,
he was a hero cop. He'd won a medal for, his name was John O'Neill, and he won a medal for gallantry.
Well, let me just say, there's a certain one you've never written about that's connected closely to the area where Alan Ryan lived, let me say.
So maybe you could share the name with me at some stage.
No, I won't share the name on air.
Oh, so there you go.
Well, obviously not an area you're not going to share.
No.
Very high-profile detective, which was transferred.
So, Brian, Brian, Alan Ryan, as you know, was murdered today. I don't have to tell you that.
Yeah.
He certainly was an angel. He was made out to be an angel by one or two individuals earlier on.
Well, who is an angel? What's your definition of an angel?
Somebody who's not involved in criminality. Well, at least let's say he wasn't a law-abiding citizen, was he? He intimidated people. He intimidated businessmen for money.
Well, I can't comment on that.
You can comment on everything else. You can comment on Paul Williams and say he doesn't tell the truth, but obviously you don't want to speak at all.
Well, I am speaking.
Yeah, well, then tell me what sort of person Alan Ryan was.
Nice guy.
Nice guy.
Yeah.
Think he was a nice guy?
Yeah, I know he was a nice guy, and so were his family.
I'm not talking about his family. I'm talking about him.
Right.
Nobody brings their child up to be the way Alan Ryan was.
Eamon Dunn's mates all said he was a nice guy as well.
Well, he wasn't.
He was a psychopath, a dangerous psychopath, responsible for up to 12, 13 murders. They all said he was a nice guy too. You know, it's a different different people have different perspectives on all of this. And also there is the reality that, you know, it's the vast majority of decent people that I'm talking for. And they're the people I talk to.
Yeah.
Brian, tell me what's nice about going to businessmen. Asked Paul this question earlier on. What's nice about going to a businessman?
You keep bringing this up again.
Yeah,
and
well,
again
because it's a good question.
Yeah.
Tell me what's nice. How can you call somebody a nice guy if they do that? They go to a businessman and extort money out of him.
I don't have any, concrete evidence of that to be the case. You know what I mean? Regarding Alan Ryan.
Well, Paul Williams was Alan Ryan. Was he extorting money from business?
Indeed, absolutely. And I talked to and interviewed a number of people who obviously were too terrified, and there was the condition.
Well, I'm taking your word for it, and the fact that they're too terrified, you're not able to give me their names.
Well, sure, Anyway, they were too terrified to go and make a property. They talked to the police. They told the police what happened. One businessman had a bomb placed outside his premises. In fact, he had 2 bombs placed outside his premises on 2 different occasions. And the squeeze was put on him by Alan Ryan directly.
Yeah.
And he was afraid the police tried to convince him to go on to make a statement officially and make a complaint, and he would be protected, but the man was too afraid. Several people were like that. Legitimate businessmen. I don't really care about drug dealers having the money taken off them, because they're only pond life as well. They're only pond
you
life
seem
as
to
well.
be taking their side.
I'm not taking any.
As the majority of callers ringing up are.
I'm absolutely not. And anyone who knows me knows that that's absolutely ridiculous.
Brian, why wouldn't
have to bomb at my home at one occasion? You know, like
it would
that's
really look
friendship.
to it would really look to people as though the biggest industry in Ireland is crime, by the looks of things, especially with the majority of your callers ringing up here. You know, taking opposed to what Alan Ryan was doing. You know.
Well, they're opposed to crime, Brian. He was involved in crime.
Yeah.
So they're opposed to crime. Every citizen is opposed to crime. Would you not agree?
It looks as though the majority of callers are taking sides with drug dealers, if you ask me, that are ringing up here.
So what? So it's not okay to be opposed to crime. He was a criminal. Why can't you just admit that, Brian?
I'm not talking about him. I'm talking about drug dealers.
Yeah, well, I'm talking about him. He was a criminal. No, everybody thinks drug dealers are the lowest form of life. Nobody's going to disagree with you on that. Of course they are. But Alan Ryan didn't do anything about it. What did he do? He went and asked for his slice. Didn't
do anything about it. Yes, he did.
What? He went and
He's
asked.
The only one that didn't do anything about it.
Yeah, he went and asked for a cut.
He ran them all from the area.
Well, Paul, did he run them all from the area?
Yes, he ran them all from the area. I've more evidence than Paul Williams has, let me tell you.
Well, all you have to do is look at the availability of drugs across Dublin.
No, well, forget about across Dublin. I'm talking about the area where he came from.
Donamead?
Yes, that's right.
There's still a drug problem in Donamead.
There is, but a lot smaller since he stepped in.
So perhaps the fellas who were the smaller group of people who were selling the drugs, who were the guys who got the licence because they paid up. That was the old trick with the provisional IRA back in the early 80s in this town, when they also tried the same thing as Alan Ryan and his cohorts have been doing, try and undermine the police in areas and move in and try and get themselves a power base and then control the whole thing and get a nice little living out of it.
Paul, can I ask you what do you believe is going to happen to the individuals responsible for the death of Alan Ryan?
I think that there's nothing sure that there'll be reprisals. Because these guys are like any other criminal gang. They can't allow themselves to lose face, so they will have to do something about it.
Sorry,
or
Brian.
else they'll be just laughed at, the Muppets that they are on the street. And the Muppets who shot them will all be cowardly scumbags as well, who are running for cover at the moment.
What did you say, Brian? Nothing sure.
That's right.
And how do you know that?
I know.
You're all very big. People coming on the radio tonight, all pretending to be great and big and wonderful
Well,
people.
what do you want me to say? Name names or something? That's not going to happen.
But why do you continue this on? If you are involved, and I don't know whether you are or not, you're claiming obviously that you have obviously some sort of knowledge. But if you are involved, I mean, sure, what's the point of this vicious circle? Keeps going on and on, doesn't it? Somebody else kills them, then the people who kill them will get killed as well.
And what's your point? Hand it over to the Garda. Is that what your point is?
Well, what other option do you have? Take the law into your own hand, and we live in a lawless society. So let anarchy take over.
The Garda. What did they ever do for the people here?
Yeah, but what is Paul Williams? Paul Williams only reports what happens. If you guys, well, okay, not you personally, I don't know what you're involved in, but if those guys weren't doing what they were doing, should Paul Williams be out of a job tomorrow?
Yeah, well, maybe so. Well, he can go into some other profession.
But he doesn't need to. You're giving him plenty to write about.
Well, if he wants it.
All right, well, listen, thanks very much indeed for that, Brian. Listen, Paul, I know I held you up tonight and I've kept you up very, very late. And I'm sure you're hoarse all day talking about it. I really got to appreciate you coming on, Paul, to talk to us tonight. Sorry, Paul, I dropped your line there by mistake. I appreciate that, Paul.
Thanks, Niall, no problem at all.
All right, good evening.
Good night.
A lot of people texting in. Paul is a hero. Paul Williams is a hero. Keep fighting crime. That comes in from Bill and Ennis. Somebody else says drug dealers are the worst. They're worse than serial killers. Somebody says that man from Dublin speaks a lot of sense about how often nasty rivalry between the so-called Jackeens and Culchies. He's right. This is obviously in relation to our last topic. So he said all those uneducated IRA loving gits are scum. Good riddance, Mr. Ryan, says Mike. Paul Williams has made a good living out of his TV appearances, books, etc. He is part of the wheel that glamorises all these scumbags. That comes in from James in Limerick. And somebody else says Paul Williams is my idol, and I've read all of his books, and I'd love to meet him in person, and I'd love to have a good chat with him.